There we go. All right. Welcome, everybody. Everybody here pretty much knows me. We don't really, per se, have too many newcomers right now. Just to remind people before I get which I like to do, we have a card over here. You guys already know I'm more or less saying this for the film. The card's got all the information on there about the radio show, the website. Again, for those that may have never listened to the radio show, we've been doing a show for a little bit over a year and some change right now. We've done 82 shows, actually. We've had, again, Dr. Delbert Blair, Dr. Phil Valentine's been on the show, Brother Panic. We've had Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum on the show a multitude of times. Brother Sharif, Dr. David Emotep, Dr. Jewel Pookram's been on the show. I'm trying to think if anybody missed. Ralph Ellis, that actually wrote this book right here. Scott Allen Roberts. I even try to bring on some European scholars to kind of show that, look, this is not just something one group of people are talking about. Ralph Ellis, if you're not familiar with Ralph Ellis, he's from actually England. He's what you would term, they give themselves titles. He's an Egyptologist, and he does extensive study on Egypt, and he has confirmed a lot of the things that we've all been studying for long periods of time. So his books are really good. He has a Solomon, The Face of Sheba, Jesus, Last of the Pharaohs. The titles might sound religious, but they're not really religious. You got to really read them because he connects it back to Egypt, and he really goes in depth who the fictional character was, and he kind of ties it in to more factual information. All right. So anyway, the card has all the information on there about the radio show, the YouTube channel. Every class that we do here, as you know, is posted on YouTube. Just so I can let everybody else know watching. That 15-minute post thing will be finished. Just so everybody knows what had happened was there was an image that was used in one of the classes. It was copywritten, and I was not aware of it. And somebody had contacted YouTube as opposed to contacting me. And what they do is restrict your account for 6 months, and I was only limited to posting 15-minute videos. I wish the person would have contacted me. I would have just took it down. I didn't know. But anyway, that'll be up. You won't see 15-minute videos starting next week. I'll be able to post unlimited amount of time. I'll be doing one a week like I used to. That's why if you saw it, it was like 8 parts. Because you got to understand, there's a 3-hour class. I got to break that down into 15-minute increments. Right. So I made it complicated. But anyway, long story short, that's over. All right, so what we want to talk about tonight. Now remember, this is a question and answer. And what we want to kind of talk about tonight, we've been talking a lot about metaphysics, alchemy, greater black magic, lesser black magic, what it really represents. Not again, as I've said a million times before, not the Hollywood version of it that you read on the internet and see in movies. When we say black magic, we're not talking about slitting the neck of goats and blood sacrifices. That's the European concept of what we would know as black magic. Real black magic is manipulation of the subconscious mind. That's why I'm going to tie it back into Egypt. A lot of people study Egypt, and the only thing they really get out of it, everybody wants to go on these rant and raves for hours about back in the day. And that's one syndrome we're finding a lot that's going on now. Everybody wants to talk about back in the day this, back in the day that, and like I say, it's absolutely doing us nothing in 2016. And we can see that because everybody sees what's going on in the news since the last class. All right, there is an intent to attack your subconscious mind right now. They're working psychologically on getting into your subconscious to control your thought patterns, to control your emotions, and dictate the way you think. You see it because it's worked, because even though some of us are hailing Micah Johnson and the brother Cosmo in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that took action upon themselves, though that might appear to be noble, it really isn't, because what we're doing is playing right into their hands by inciting the violence to open the door to bring them in. Martial law is behind it. Now, one thing you need to pay close attention to, they just got enough of signatures to try to pass a bill through Congress to label the Black Lives Matter group a terrorist organization. Now, that's all part of the plan, okay? What they want us to do is react and not be proactive, okay? What I mean by be proactive, well, what's the solution? Because first of all, we don't have the artillery to take it to the streets. We don't have the weaponry. So I don't care what anybody says. You can get up there, somebody can get on, I've seen them all on YouTube, all these groups. You can get up there, hoot and holler about what you're going to do to the white man and what you're going to do to the police. You ain't doing nothing to the police. You ain't doing nothing to the white man. It's all emotion. You're feeding off of your emotion, just what they want you to do. Now, one of the solutions, real simple, when we deal with metaphysics, alchemy, black magic, dealing with our ancient roots or spiritual practices of our ancestors, changing the vibrational frequency, not just of ourselves, but of the planet. See, remember, every problem, as I've said before, has its root in the spiritual, not the physical. And if you read any history, anytime we went to battle or war, there was always a great ritual reenacted before we went to war. What's happening now is we're just reacting off of pure physical emotion. And what it does is it plays right into their hands, and they want us to just protest, take it to the streets, gather in crowds, to basically take the sheep to the slaughter. Okay? We got to start working in places where they can't see us work. We got to start reenacting rituals to change the vibrational frequency that they can't do anything to stop. They can sit there and do all this stuff physically to get into your mind, which they are accomplishing because people are feeding right into it. You understand? So what's happening now is you see pretty much what? Now, obviously it's been going on the last couple of years, but the last few months, it's like there's a terrorist shooting or a mass shooting now every 2-3 days. You turn on the news, you just had one in Germany. You know, you had the one last week in Nice, France. We had Orlando not too long ago. Right after Orlando, all these other attacks lined up. Now, there's a reason. And as I explained to you, when you study and do the research, we talked about the Orlando thing. The Orlando shootings, that was more of a mass sacrificial ritual, okay? You have to go back, and if anybody has studied Guardians of the Gateway and Androgyny, you know spiritually that plays its part. And when they do some of these blood sacrifice or / mass rituals, there's two people they always aim for: homosexuals and innocent children, okay? Because the blood is more pure to them. It holds more clout. Why are they doing this? Because they literally believe, if you read their Bible, when you read the Bible, regardless of what faith you are, when you read the Bible, their God is constantly requesting blood sacrifice. Especially when you read the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. There was constantly blood sacrifice. Animals' throats slit, put upon the altar, poured upon the 4 corners. When you watch a Catholic Mass, it's subliminally reenacting the same thing. Because when I mentioned this before, I believe in the last class, when the Catholic priest is trying to put into practice what they call transubstantiation, which is transferring the bread and the wine into what? The body and the blood. You're basically partaking in the cannibalistic service subconsciously, whether you're aware of it or not. What he does is, though, somebody that's been a priest for a while, pay attention. When he takes the chalice or he takes the bread, there's one thing he does. He goes to the front, side, back, to the 4 corners of the altar. That's something that comes from your Torah. When they slit and offered blood sacrifices, they poured it upon the 4 corners of the altar. That's what they're doing, because their priesthood goes back to the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek, and then we can trace it on back, which that gets into a whole bunch of other stuff, which I really don't want to get into now. But I'm saying this is all part of the ritual that's taking place in front of you, but we're just not paying attention to it because we're getting sucked into emotionally what's going on in the news. Their objective is to instill fear in you, panic, to feel like you can't trust the police, you can't trust the politicians, you can't trust your local officials. And I'm going to tell you this, by next year, they're going to do away with local police. We're going to be dealing with state police only. They're going to eliminate some police departments. Mark my words when I tell you this, okay? It's already happening in Texas, okay? Texas will be the first state. Mark my words when I tell you that. This is a process that they're going to slowly start building up to bring in that martial law. And I would suggest people educate themselves on what martial law is. Now, this is something I've been teaching about since back in early 90s to mid 90s. This is something that we used to talk about for years when I used to be a Nubian years back. This is something that we discussed, numerous classes. And now you got people, talking about it now. But the thing is, you can't rally the troops to war if you ain't got no war plan. That's the problem. So we're getting emotional, we're getting mad. What are we going to do? What type of weaponry do we have? What are we going to attack with? Look, anybody can get their hands on a few assault rifles, some ammunition, go kamikaze and shoot a few people. Hey. But in the end of the day, in the longer scheme of things, what does that really accomplish? Absolutely nothing. You can sit there and feel good for a quick minute, but the problem still persists, because even after these events, there's still more shootings. Now, here's the thing that people fail that they don't understand and don't realize. Okay, it's not. I understand the Black Lives Matter movement, what it represents. They're trying to point out a specific struggle that's been taking place recently. So some people take it racist. It's not racist. But we have to look at the bigger picture. There's also Latinos that are brutalized just as bad or worse. Okay, and here's the messed up statistic. Do you know more white people are shot by police than black people? When you pull up the statistics, pull them up for yourself. The reason why is because they're uploading what they want you to see. You got to remember, we got YouTube now, we got Facebook, we got cell phones. So they upload what they want you to see. So because we're seeing what they want us to see, we think it's only just that particular. See, people don't know the experience when you leave this country. Now, when you go outside of this country, it's a whole different experience as far as dealing with melanated people in America. Now, they had that one kid in California, that white kid in California, that got shot right in the parking lot of the gas station. When he was told to put his hands up, same thing. He reached into his pocket. Like they bolted him several times in the chest, killed him. Now, my thing is it about police brutality, or are we just focusing on one specific thing? And I know everybody's going to go, well, it's, we're dealing with one particular plight. But where is Sharpton? You understand? Where are all these dudes? Now, they served them with lawsuits. Anybody that's affiliated with the Black Lives Matter movement, they even served Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, all of them got served lawsuits. I don't know if you know that this week. Pulled up on the news. Because what they're trying to do, which plays right into their hands, again, which I said a few minutes ago, they're trying to classify that movement as a terrorist organization. Now, understand this. Terrorist organization doesn't just mean a bunch of crazy Arab Muslims picking up guns and shooting people. There's a such thing called domestic terrorism. You need to look it up. What they're trying to say is it's a group that incites disharmony, violence, negativity, and creates a disruptive atmosphere. All right? Now, because they gathered right now, as last time we looked last night, they were at between 141 to 145,000 signatures. You only need 100,000 to just get it, the opportunity to push it through Congress. So they got well past the amount of signatures they need. Now, if this goes through, all shit's going to hit the fan. Excuse my language, but it's going to hit the fan. Okay? So now it gets us to what we're going to talk about tonight. We need to get this right. Because I'm starting to already see people going out of their mind, not knowing how to deal with it. And I keep telling people, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, none of this stuff, it's irrelevant. And we got to get this out of our mind. And I used to be one of those back in the day on the forefront. I used to think it was just a race thing. It goes deeper than that. You need to look at the bigger picture. When you get caught up into the race thing, I'm going to quote something Dr. Delbert Blair said, and something he used to always tell me in my private conversations with him. And they used to think he said this because he was taking a soft stance. He would say, look, what's going to be the downfall of melanated people in America is their inability to get over this race thing because they don't know how to look bypass it. What I mean by that is, see, a lot of us play the victim all the time. And it's not negating what happened in history. That's not what I'm saying. We understand history. We could sit here all day and have a conversation about what happened back in the day. First and foremost, and again, none of us, let me give you an example. That picture they put on Facebook showing 4 brothers hung from a tree. That's to feed off your emotions. That stuff is put out there intentionally. First and foremost, you don't know if that's a real photo, number 1. You don't know if it was cropped, where they got it, number 2. Number 3, it's to get the reaction out of you. Now, most of us, we can sit there and acknowledge our ancestry, whether you're black, Latino, or any part of the melanated family. We can go back in either side of our history and see that existed. But personally, we got to stop playing the victim because technically, you ever been in shackles? You ever been? Yeah, okay. So what they do is they're trying to get us up in here psychologically again to react. So we know the history, and we need to know the history. Because if you don't know your past, you don't know your future. But everybody does classes and lectures on what the problem is. I think we all know what the problem is by now. What's the solution? Nobody gives lectures on what the solution is. So the problem is, we're not moving forward. We keep going referring how it used to be back in the day. And while we're sitting around playing the victim and feeling sorry for ourselves and reminiscing over how it used to be back in the day, they're making power moves. You don't hear the Caucasian go, oh man, I remember when we were in the caves back in the day, man. I wish we can go back to those times. They're not sitting there reminiscing. The last thing they want to do is go back to the past. You understand what I'm saying? You even look at and they're some of the most racist people, and I got to call it for what it is. Cubans, for an example. You take the Cubans that look more Caucasian. What they did was prey upon the advantage that they had. And like I said, the Cubans that I vibed with in New York as opposed to down here, it's like night and day. The Cubans down here that fit in with Caucasians, I've seen the racism. But they're not going back. They're going to go forward regardless. And I'm not saying all of it is justified, but the thing is, long story short, we're the only people in America that are not going forward. We keep going back. We keep sitting around complaining about what was done to us, and I don't hear nobody giving suggestions on what we're going to do to correct it, what we're going to do to fix it. So, Egypt being the most popular thing that everybody likes to talk about now, and basically historical-wise, we're going to bypass some of that.
before you go any further.
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to say this here. I was listening to the press conference Professor Griff had.
Okay, I saw it.
On his situation. And he said something, and the first thought that came to my mind is something that you have always said in every gathering on how we can solve all these rituals. So apparently, Professor Smalls,
Right, James Smalls, yep.
put a bug in his ear. And I think because he's on the frenzy, he almost literally let it slip. If you weren't paying attention, if you didn't catch it, I caught it because of what I've been listening to, what you have been saying.
Right.
So apparently, you know, that may be something that may be on the table that they might be doing up there.
Okay.
To
a ritual?
Yeah.
That's great.
What you always been saying, that we need to come together.
That's great.
And go underneath.
That's right. Because and if you know James Small's history, he's heavy into African spirituality.
Right.
He's heavy into Voodoo, Palo, the Orishis, which I'm telling you that because I'm initiated in all that myself. And I'm glad to hear that. I must have missed that. I scanned through it. I'm going to go back and watch the whole thing. And we're going to need people like that to have insight that other people are missing, to step in and suggest stuff like that. Because I used that example you hear me said several times here. Rather than have 1 million man gathering or 1 million man march in DC, if we got 1 million drummers together, we can change and did a drumming ceremony or some type of ancestral ceremony, we would be able to change the vibrational frequency of the planet. And there's nothing they can do to stop it. Because once we tap into our frequency, our vibe, there's nothing that can interfere with that. Because you got to understand, dealing with vibration and frequency, it eliminates good and bad. It's how you work with the energy. There is no such thing when somebody knows how to work ritual. There's no such thing as God or the devil, good or bad, evil. It's all the same. It's just varying degrees of vibrational energy. So we need to take that negative energy and we can turn that around. Anybody that is a magician, a spiritualist, educated in the black arts or any type of form of spirituality the correct way, say as a Professor James Small, can take that energy and make it work for us. As opposed to, rather than us take that energy and just pure react to it emotionally, we can take that energy and refuse it and send it back a different way. And how is that done? I can just give you basics. I'm not going to go into on camera into specifics. You got to learn to tap into your subjective realm to do that. Okay? And when somebody's working a ritual to get components to move for them, when you talk about Egypt and the archetype energies of the deities of Egypt and what they represent, you've got to learn to tap into your subjective realm and make and place them to move in position how you want them to move. For an example, Tahuti, as I said before, one of the archetypes of consciousness that he represents is wisdom or knowledge. So we can petition that energy. If we want to petition a warrior type of energy, we would have to petition the energy, say, per se, I'll use Shango as an example, in the Orishi pantheon. Well, we have to get out of our minds what's holding us back, because they've done that in those systems. We got to stop looking at those deities as if they're physical things and externally correct. We're externally worshiping them like we did in Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And as I said a multitude of times, a lot of us leave those, slave mentality schools of thought, and we come into Egyptology, but we still have a slave mind as far as how we look at the Natiru or the Egyptian deities. So we still got people groveling in front of statues of Heru. I love the ones that are out there. Horus he's really Jesus. I went through that whole phase. We can break down the symbologies of what it represents. I'm not disputing that. But the question that it boils down to, how does that differ from somebody that gets a statue of Heru or Horus or Usia or Osiris and is sitting in front of it praying and meditating to it? That is no different than a Catholic going into a Catholic church, groveling in front of a statue, saying a rosary. What it does is create dead energy. It's the same thing. They know this. And this is why they got all up into Egyptology, and then they jacked it up and threw it back at us. But you do have teachers out there such as Dr. Ben. You do have Professor James Smalls, Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum. Again, if you're not familiar with him, we've had him on the show. He's to me, he comes from a whole nother perspective. Definitely need to check his books. One book in particular, not the only book, but Dark Light Consciousness. And he gets into the breakdown of neuromelanin, the origin of it, and really how we need to tap into that ability, because that link, the neuromelanin, which starts in the brainstem, its origin is in the brain. That capacity is what links us in to what we call cosmic consciousness. Once that is vibrating at its correct frequency, you can tap into anything you want. But you got to learn, number one, to astrally travel. You got to learn to tap into your subjective realm. The problem is, everything we've been getting for years deals with the objective realm, physical. The word objective has root in the word object. So when I say objective realm, it's something tangible, something physical that you can just, your subjective realm is your reality. Because as in the first principle of Tahuti, all is mental, mental is all. Everything is created in the mind. The mind creates universes. You have to learn to tap into your universe as God or deity because you create your own reality, not somebody else. Now you might say that's not true, but anything that you think is creating the illusion outside of yourself that's creating your personal reality, it's just that, an illusion. You've become a slave to that illusion. Because here, real simple, we all went through this system. Most of us, I'm sure in this room, came up through some form of monotheism, be it Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. So we were all brought up to think that there was this external force somewhere out there, mostly perpetrated to us in the sky or heaven, called God, right? And this God is up there in heaven, you know, like a puppet master, and he's pulling the strings and he's controlling everything. You know, that creates a certain mindset and mentality. Now we're back to looking for things outside of ourselves for salvation. Now, how do you know that's really illusion? They mess up when they try to incorporate quantum and metaphysical principles in that. Real simple. They'll say God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Well, there's a problem with that statement. If you are an individual, and if you're dealing with faith, that's fine. But faith is confirmation that you accept in things not proven or seen. So if you're dealing with faith, that's just personal. But when we're dealing with hardcore evidence and facts, it has no arena in what we're discussing. If faith is personal. So we're not discussing in person. I can believe that tree, you know, is a representation of whatever I want it to be. Now, nobody can come into my personal subjective realm and tell me otherwise because I've accepted that, if that's how faith works. And that's fine if that's where you want to go and that's where you want to stop. That's okay. But don't get upset when somebody else comes along with information that doesn't line up with your personal ideology. Now you get mad, you get upset because you take it personal, because you sit there and you say stuff like, that's not true. Not true based on factual information, or not true based on because it doesn't line up with your personal belief system. What's up, brother? Two different things. Okay? So what tends to happen is, if you say that this creator is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, you cannot accept the concept that there is some type of old man God sitting in the sky, because if he's there, it's confirmation of what? He's not here. You understand? Well, they say, nah, brother, that's not what it means. Then what does it mean? You understand? See, the problem that comes in, people want to give their interpretation on it, especially when it comes to religion, because certain things they'll pass along as being literal, and then other things they'll be like it's symbolic. Well, it's one of the two. You can't believe, you either accept that book and every word in it that it's the truth, as most religious people believe, or you don't accept it at all. You can't pick and choose what you like, and you can't decipher what you like and determine it for what you think it says. Because if you literally believe word for word that it is the word, quote unquote, of the creator, then let's deal with it on that level. Don't start moosing now, because the Bible in the book of Isaiah says unicorns are real. It's right there in the Bible. I'll pull you the quote. So if you believe in the Bible, are you telling me unicorns are real? Did they exist? Because it also mentions satyrs. Anybody know what a satyr is? It's the Greek mythology character of a man, and mentions satyrs in there as being a reality. It also mentions the Pleiades and Orion constellation in the book of Job, 38th chapter, 9th verse. So now, if you're going to accept what you do like, don't try to dance around and not accept what you don't like. See, this is where the problem comes in. And then the conversation shuts down, because the individual now becomes upset and mad, because now what happened is it's not lining up with Pastor Porkchop told you, and lining up in sequence with what he told you to accept without you even researching it and believing it for yourself. Funny thing is, these cats don't even speak any Semitic languages. That's the funny thing. You know, they go to seminaries, which has root in the word cemetery. You got to remember this. You find mentally dead people in a church or a masjid, and you find physically dead people in a cemetery. It's no coincidence they have seminary and cemetery, and phonetically the root of the words are almost identical. So we need to get out of step one to bypassing this psychological warfare that they're imparting upon us, is we got to reprogram our subconscious mind completely. Because 90%, close to 100% of the stuff we've been taught since birth has been incorrect. We've all been indoctrinated, all of us in this room. Nobody is obsolete from it. We've been affected by it in one shape, form, or fashion. It started when we were children. We were sat down, we were told We were educated a certain way for a certain reason. Not that it was our parents' fault or our grandparents' fault, because remember, they were told that, and then they were told by their parents. So this is a cycle. So people want to know, how do we bring about change? Real simple. It's up to you. When you have your kids now, you need to change the cycle. If you keep telling them that Santa Claus is real, there's some old man in the sky that's controlling everything, what you're doing is you're instilling fear in them. You're instilling mythology. You're instilling false principles. You're instilling illusions in them, and they will never grow to their potential. Just because they go off to a college and get a degree, and that's great, and education is important, that's only one part of it. But if you give them the other part, now you got the physical knowledge part, but if you give them the spiritual part combined with the book knowledge, that's a whole nother beast. They don't want to deal with that. Trust me when I tell you. Now keep in mind, this is a question and answer class. You know me, I could talk forever. If you got questions, just raise your hands. I don't want to be here, I can spit for, you know me.
Spit.
Well.
Anyway, all right. So again, anybody, anytime, go ahead.
And this might be a little bit off topic.
That's okay. Nothing's off topic.
Okay, so last night I had weird something. So for the past couple of nights, I haven't been able to sleep. And last night I was looking at, informational videos, like, Slow Down Time.
Okay.
And when you're like, I'm tired, but like I want to stay up and look at the video. So I'm up. So I kind of slowly felt myself like I don't know, I can't even explain that.
Okay.
And while that's going on, I'm noticing like there's like a weird presence.
While you're watching the video.
That, and I noticed it's not inside, it's outside.
Okay.
So the blinds were kind of like, they were closed, but one was kind of like, a little crack.
And what was on? What were you watching? Phil Valentine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, there's a building not too, like a little ways, a couple yards, and it has like a light, so I can see the light.
Right.
But you can see when something's like in the kind of like in the way of it, and
right.
Plus by the window there's like a sensor light that comes on when something is there, and then it shuts off. Right. But the light stayed on.
Right.
So wait. So I'm noticing that. And I'm noticing I'm about to travel. Everything's vibrating. I'm like, okay, no, I don't know where I'm going, so I'm not going. Okay. So I literally fought.
You fought it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me tell you this.
Yeah.
Again, when you have a personal experience, again, as I like to say, especially when I'm dealing with a public audience, I can give you a lot of theories and concepts on it. But when it's personal, no, but I can give you an idea on it. But you're going to have to raise yourself up to realization. But I'm going to tell you what it appears or sounds like that was happening to you. You got to understand, there's two things you got to be cautious of when you get tired. You go into what we call alpha state. It's the same thing when you sleep and you lay flat on your back. You're going to notice most of the times you have intense dreams when you're laying flat on your back because all your chakras are vertically aligned. And 9 out of 10 times when you astrally travel or have an out-of-body experience or have what they call sleep paralysis, it usually happens when you're laying flat on your back. All of us, I'm sure, in this room at one time or another experienced the part where we tried to wake up and we felt like we were separating from our body or something was pressing down on us. And though there was nothing physically there, some people have described it, and I know I can't explain when it used to happen to me years ago before I was able to control it. You can actually see yourself looking down at yourself. It happens in a variations of ways. Because when you bridge the gap and you hit that astral plane, either, like I've explained to you, I think this before, what tends to happen is once you become afraid or fear kicks in, you gotta remember your adrenal glands give off a certain adrenaline rush that gives off a scent. You may not be able to smell it yourself, but what happens is when you have certain energy trying to pull you through, it chases certain entities away because once they sense fear or emotion, it backs them away. Really, what it is your higher self. You understand? But anyway, what happens though when you go into alpha state, and this has happened to people who were tired, and you get like your second wind, they usually call it. What happens is, I've literally seen people felt like they were dozing off, and then as they are dozing off, they come back, they immediately shoot into some type of spiritual trance. I'm not saying that's exactly how it happened to you, but what it sounds like to me, your body was so relaxed, you were zoned in on what you were doing, even though there was physical tiredness kicking in, you basically kicked in the alpha state. Now, what tends to happen is, especially if you're practicing magic and spirituality, which I know you are, when you're practicing that type of stuff and you start to naturally get in tune, you got to understand when they want to give a message sometimes and come and take you or just reveal something to you or show you something, you got to understand the responsibility that comes with working with the subjective realm. Now you have to be, sometimes they'll do it when you might say, I'm tired, but they don't care. When I say they, I'm saying what you're raising your vibration to. I don't want to pass this off as some spook beings outside of yourself, because even if it's an ancestral spirit, say a deceased relative, you got to understand your higher consciousness is able to tap in to that realm. And the realms are not, as some people will depict, above. They're all interwoven around you. So it's very easy to tap into your subjective realm. Again, I'm not saying that's exactly what it is, but I can definitely tell you, you tapped into some type of alpha state where you started to travel, and then when your fear kicked in, that's when you shut the experience down. And as I've explained to you and other people, you got to train and discipline yourself to relax. I know it can be frightening, because when you hear the vibrating or the body starts to get real light, sometimes what will happen to me, if your foot falls asleep and you get those pins and needles, you'll get that feeling over your whole body, and it kind of creates like you feel like you can't move. You feel it happening, but it's like you got your conscious here, and it's not even you're seeing with these eyes anymore. You're seeing with this now. The pineal gland starts to activate. It speeds up your vibrational frequency, and what's happening is you're starting to astrally travel. So what happens is some people get stuck there, and the question is, how do I get over that bridge? How do I open that gate of consciousness to go over and have my experience? Long story short is this. That's something you've got to meditate and wrestle with, because I don't care what anybody tells you. Nobody can do that for you. That's something you just got to keep having the experience, understand it, meditate on it, and when it starts to happen, to discipline yourself to not be afraid. Now, it's easier saying that in words, because when you're having the experience and it's happening and it's coming upon you, it's a whole different thing. And it can be frightening when it starts to happen at first, but I can tell you this, as time goes on, you'll be able to discipline yourself, you'll be able to merge into that experience, and you'll be able to get your message, your experience, so that's the best thing I can tell you on that, openly. Now, we can dig, we can pry a little deeper on a personal level, as far as using divination, pulling spirits down, that's a whole nother story. But I'm just speaking more on an open audience. And this is what I'm saying, this stuff is real. Regardless, you don't have to accept it, and it's not my job to convince you of it. I really couldn't care if you accept it or not, and I don't say that disrespectful. What I am saying, this is the solution, as opposed to once we get our quote unquote, I'll use a simplistic term we can relate to, our higher powers or energy back, then we can't be duped like we've been duped all this time. We can control the very thought patterns. We can control the energy that's being sent out, as opposed to the energy that they're sending to us and wanting us to receive and be receptive. You gotta understand, man, consciousness plays an important role, because what tends to happen is it gets assimilated in your DNA. Once it gets into the thought patterns, how do you know that? You go back to music, and I've said this before a multitude of times over the years. Music has an effect on your consciousness. It affects your vibrational energy. All of us can reflect back when we were young, and even to the present day. When we were young, and some of us in the generation of the 80s or the late 70s, we knew how that first brand of hip-hop affected us. I'm 45, so I come from an era where when that consciousness of hip-hop started to really emerge in the early to mid-80s, that's what resonated with me and got me into culture and knowledge. Because what it did was it shifted my way of thinking. Music can do that. It can make you feel aggressive. You can hear a certain song that's upbeat. You see the young youth now, they get aggressive. They start affecting their body. It's the same thing with love songs and R&B and slow music. It can make you reminisce and astrally travel through time. You can throw on a song that you heard from the 70s or the 80s or the 60s, and you can just sit back and go into that alpha state and visualize where you were the first time you heard that song, and see clear as day who you were with, what you were wearing, what car you were driving, what the weather was that day. The image becomes so vivid because that's the power of the subconscious mind. This is the level of information they don't want you to have, because we can sit here all day and I can put you to sleep and talk about the 20th dynasty of ancient Egypt, blah, 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 and we could all be head nodding within an hour. It's not going to do anything for us. I'm not saying we don't need that knowledge. We've got the history. I think we've gotten enough of history to keep us occupied for generations. The problem is, and I've always said this, you got to remember, 20, 25 years ago, maybe a little less, There wasn't the internet. There wasn't Google. There wasn't, I mean, you can get anything in PDF file now. You can Google anything. We can get any historical information we want. We don't need anybody to teach us about history no more. You understand? We need solutions. Because if we sit here all night talking about the problem, nothing gets done. We just leave here with a lot of built up repressed emotions, a lot of built up repressed anger. And now we leave here and now we go out into the world and now we have to, vent this energy on something or somebody. So as soon as we get ticked off, we're going to react. We just sit here and listen to a lecture of how long I've sat in the lectures for 3 hours. I won't give no names, but I've sat in the lectures for hours and listened to some dude rant about what was done wrong to us, and then we left, and it's just like, okay, what was that all about? Okay, so where we go from here is my next question. Okay, anybody have any questions from this point? Please raise your hand if you have any questions. For those that just might have walked in recently, it is question and answer. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. Ask at any time. Just raise your hand, and I'll acknowledge you. Now, occult principles. What does the word occult mean? Occult just means hidden. That's it. So when you hear the word occult, don't start thinking and going out to left field. Oh my God, occult. That deals with Satanism, witchcraft. That's their interpretation. Here's the thing we just did on the radio show this past Thursday night. When you hear the word demon, do you think that that's an evil terminology? Most people will say yes.
Yeah, most people say yes.
And I'll use their source to verify. When you go Google it on Wikipedia, the word demon, which you have variations of the spelling. We just did a show this past Thursday. Gods, goddesses, and demons, the occult principles, are they different or are they the same? They're absolutely the same. They're just varying degrees of vibrational energy, and I'm going to explain real quick. The word demon can also be spelled D-A-E-M-O-N in the Greek. Now, when you Google this, you'll find they'll give you this definition. Known as a, quote-unquote, I'm using terms that they use, a supernatural or supreme type of highly conscious being that was not demonized or made evil till Abrahamic religions came on the scene. So the only way you get the definition of demons being evil, satanic, is when you get into the monotheistic faiths of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Prior to those religions, especially in the Greek knowledge and the Egyptian knowledge, they're classified as highly intelligent spiritual beings. They were never classified as evil. This is another illusion, because when we hear the word demons, we automatically go, oh shit, Exorcist, Hollywood horror movies, Satanism. That's exactly what they want you to think. Go ahead.
Okay, so, how do I say this? The entities that the quote-unquote the government is working with, would those be, no.
You're talking about extraterrestrial entities?
Yes, are those considered?
Okay. All right, here's the thing. Yeah, well, let's look at it this way. Everybody's going to have their own perception on what extraterrestrial entities are. Now, a lot of us have become spooked out about that too, because that's also become a form of religion now. Because we have a group of people. Here's the problem. Here's the sickness that is evolving from our minds. Now, has our government been working with more intelligent, conscious life forms? Most definitely. This is where they get a lot of their military technology from. But I want to dispel some of the myth. Some of us go to left field when it comes to reptilians, and we get out there because we start getting encaptured by certain dogmas and doctrines. And years ago, I did myself. You get captivated by it because they relate it on one sense, but what happens is when we start accepting things that we can't confirm on our subjective realm, it's not really a reality to us. Now, yeah, you can sit there and say, well, I had experiences, I had an encounter with a great. Maybe you did. I'm not saying you didn't. But to say that to everybody and want everybody to co-sign on it, now we've started a new religion. Now, I can't say you didn't have that personal experience. I'm going to show you what I'm getting at. But if this brother tells me, yeah, you know what? This alien came to me, came in my room, I had this experience, he took me up on a ship. All right, maybe he did experience that on his subjective realm. I'm not saying he did or did not, but what keeps our mind grounded in reality, if I co-sign on that and go, brother, that's deep. Yeah, you did. Now I become his first follower of his religion that he just started. Now, what tends to happen is when we say intelligent life forms and we say, has the government been in contact, we got to look at a lot of these beings. They're no different than me and you. They're not these big-headed monsters, that we think anything that lived, existed outside or does exist outside this galaxy is some type of gray alien or reptilian. You understand? Now, you can get into the theory of the Nomos when you go back to the Dogon of Mali in West Africa. And the Nomos were water beings. Okay, and you can look at the ostrich people there today that have webbed feet. Okay, and as the story goes in their history, and I'm just quoting their history, I'm not telling everybody to accept this. I'm telling you to go research it, and you go make the conclusion on your own. Because again, I'm not interested in what you believe or you don't. I couldn't care. I say that with all due respect. Don't take that personal. I'm not interested in what you like or you don't like. That's not my job. My job is just to give you information. You do with it what you want. That's your job. Because I can't force anybody to do anything. You're going to have to want to change yourself. That's it. Bottom line is, if you research the Nomos or the Dogons and the connection, in their history it's recorded that these beings came from beneath the surface of the water, came to the land, and in exchange for them mingling with their females and copulating and creating seeds, they would teach them about astrology, mysteries of the universe. They have a rite called the Baldo rite, which is called the Sagi of the Baldo rite, that they reenact every 60 years to commemorate this event. Now, the evidence that's there is, they do to this day, you can pull up pictures on the internet, they do have people in their tribe that have webbed feet like reptilian people. So what I can say to that is, there's evidence to say that this stuff possibly exists. But I would tell everybody, when it comes to the extraterrestrial phenomenon, you need to do your research and come to your own conclusion. Don't start accepting stuff, because when you just start accepting, now we know when you go into the Majestic 12, some of the government files, Valthor, you know, and they say he was human, he looked just like me or you, he was a Venetian that came, communicated with President Eisenhower and all that. You know, Area 51, there's been controversy about that for years. Are they doing extraterrestrial experiments there? Some say it's that, some say it's where they're testing high-tech warcraft. But I can tell you this, whatever technology they have now, they had that shit 20, 30, 40 years ago. The B-2 stealth bomber was being worked on in the 40s and the 50s. So a lot of the crafts that people have seen in those areas, you got to understand, if I see something that is eons ahead of its development, a lot of people have determined crafts that are from here as being extraterrestrial. Now here's the thing that you can dispel that myth real simple. 9 out of 10 times when people describe what they see as an extraterrestrial craft, there's always a human element to it. I'm going to tell you why. They always describe propulsion. There's always some type of system or engine component to what they've seen, and they never describe anything that's not something that can be defined on a 3-density level, person, place, or thing. Now, if anybody knew real science, and you have Coral Castle right here in Miami, which there's a science to that, we have 162 magnetic grids on this planet. Okay? When you look at the 162 magnetic grids, this is really how the pyramids were built. You got to dig to find this. Don't believe that stuff you're seeing on the History Channel, that they had these big boulders and they were moving. That stuff to keep you more done. And well, extraterrestrials did it. That anything to give melanated people credit for doing something great. We can never get, somebody else did it. Aliens did it, or they come up with these bugged out theories of how the stones were moved and stacked. That's all garbage. Through the science of the magnetic grids of the planet, and through the science of the laser, and this is how people are able to levitate. This is how Edward Leenscaven was able to do it here in the Coral Castle. The man weighed like 98 pounds, and nobody ever seen him lift any of that stuff. So how did he move it? How did he stack it? Well, when you know where the magnetic grids are, the science of levitation, you can tap into that grid and move anything. Don't matter how heavy or light it is, it can be moved. This is how they were able to do this science. Now, the same thing, there's something in many doctrines, many leaders that came over the years, they used the term the mothership, the crystal city. We hear this term all the time, right? What is one thing? I'm going to use the term the crystal city. Farrakhan has used it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has used it. Dr. York has used it. But there's one component in there that people forget and don't pay attention to. When you even read Zachariah Stitchin's books, Nibiru Crossing the Sky, Planet Crossing the Sky, how did these crafts propose, how did they maneuver themselves? What energy source did they use? Anybody read anything about it can share something with us. Anybody? Real quick. All right, so let me throw this out there. If you got any questions on this, raise your hand. They called it the crystal city because anybody that works with crystals and stones know crystals house energy. We all know this. When you look at some of the depictions in the Sumerian writings, for an example, and you see the crystal panels on some of these shams or ships, that was the component that housed the energy to push these ships through the skies. You understand what I'm saying? They were able to tap into the energy grids of the planet. So there was no sound. You didn't hear any sound. So I'm bringing that up because anybody that tells you they saw a craft, first thing I asked them, I said, did it make a sound? Yeah, it made this crazy sound. And then you didn't see what you thought you saw. Now, you can train your mind. Remember, If you watch horror movies all night, okay, or you're reading books on extraterrestrials for months and years, how do you think, what kind of dreams do you think you're going to have when you start to go? All right. So what you absorb on a daily basis affects you. We've all experienced that when we watch the program. What the heck was that? Is that a cat? Something on the roof. Sounds like a cat or a raccoon or something.
When you talk about ETs,
No, I was just gonna say that's
it's just a silly.
What is that? A raccoon, maybe?
It might
Maybe a raccoon.
Oh, it could be.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a big raccoon.
Yeah, they did.
Things go bump in the night, man. Don't get scared.
Everybody got scared real quick.
Yo, whatever that was pretty big, though. All I heard was thud, thud. To me, that sounded like a raccoon or a cat or something like that. Let's not go spook. Let's identify. But yeah. So I don't want to stay on the extraterrestrial alien thing too long. I'm glad you bring that up. So crystal cities, housing crystals are important. This is why anybody that does crystal or chakra work, that's the purpose of it, because we know a lot of these different stones, emeralds, crystals, they carry a lot of healing purpose, a lot of healing energy. Topaz, amethyst, all these different things. We know that these can be used for beneficial purposes, to activate our chakras, for healing purposes, different methods of energy, etc. So this is important in understanding that science when studying. The best thing I can tell you when it comes to theories like that, come to your own conclusion. Don't be influenced by anybody else's stuff. All right? And all I would say is this, and I'll leave it on that note. There is a lot of information out there to possibly suggest that it is a reality. I'm not going to sit here, and I used to do that years ago. I was heavily into that at one point, and I would sit here and do lectures on it because I gotten captured by that information. You understand? So what happens is when we get captivated by something, we tend to be biased, and we start promoting it as if it's a reality, and I was guilty of that. I'll be straight up with you. I don't do that no more. So now what I tell the individual is, what you want to do is draw your own conclusion, because you might have personal experiences, he might, she might, and they all going to vary from level to level. But that personal experience is going to determine how you perceive the reality of that information. Okay? Because I've heard it all. I've heard people come to me, they've encountered greys and reptilians. And again, I'm not saying it's not true. They might have. They might have tapped into their higher consciousness and opened up a realm or a doorway where they had that communication. By all means, that's a reality. I don't doubt it. But what I've learned to stay grounded, I'm not going to co-sign on it. Be like, yeah, brother or sister, that's deep, that's heavy. I see that all the time now. I watch people get up there and do lectures, and the people in the crowd are like seals. They're like, oh, bro, that's deep. And I'm like, how's that deep when you can't even confirm it? You understand? Let me give you an example. Some ridiculous stuff for an example. Like, Dr. York used to teach about Pickle Man. Come on, seriously? Pickle Man. I mean, really? You're going to believe in Pickle Man without researching? It's a form of one of these type of creatures, Sasquatch. Oh. People have said they've sighted this stuff. Maybe they have. I've seen some footage. Some of it's etchy, or maybe it's an illusion. You understand? Maybe somebody wants you to see something you want to see. You understand? But here's the reality. In 2016, if we sit here and have this debate, are extraterrestrials real? Is Sasquatch real? Is this real? Is that real? How is that going to change our current condition in the now, right now, in 2016? Because if I go out that door right now, people still getting shot. Crack is still killing people. There's our children are being lost to the streets every day, whether it's through music or some form of idiocy. That problem still exists. That's a reality. So me getting into some historical debate with you for 2-3 hours is doing absolutely nothing. That's why I said I'm not interested in what you like or you don't like. That's irrelevant to me. I don't care what you do gravitate to or you don't. I just tell you, whatever I teach and talk about, whatever it doesn't resonate with you, then just don't accept it. Toss it to the curb. Whatever it does, take from that. Focus on that. Because I'm not saying everything I'm going to talk about tonight that you're going to agree with 100%. You shouldn't. Because if you sit here and agree with everything I say all night, then guess what? You're programming and you're a follower too. And that's not what we're trying to do. Because we're trying to get people up consciously to the level. And what does that do? It starts to address the problem of what the media is trying to do to us right now by instill fear into us. They want you to see these shootings on a daily basis. They want you to watch black folks get shot in cold blood. So instills terror and fear in your hearts. And we know there's a bigger plan. Like I said, that whole Orlando shooting, if you study, I always get the dude's name backwards. What's his name, man? Oh, man. Say it again? Krita Mutwa. I always mess that up. Krita Mutwa, okay, he teaches about this, and I would recommend you go get his books on androgyny and homosexuality. This is a debatable topic in the conscious community because some people are so anti-homosexual, some people are on the fence, and some people don't really know where to put it in their perspective. The reality is, when you study androgyny, the first beings on this planet were androgynous beings. Okay? The question is, we are genetic mutations of androgynous beings. The first beings on this planet had vaginas and penises, or what we call hermaphrodites or hemorphodites. Okay? So when we sit here and get into this gender thing, male and female, and this is why we know it's all bullshit that God is a man and all, that's all garbage. That's all men that sat down and penned this stuff had their own agenda. That's why every holy book you read, God is a man. When science tells you that the first gender that manifested on this planet was the female through the mitochondrial DNA, we know that. So now that eliminates religion right there. We don't even need to talk about religion no more. Because religion states the reverse. They say that men were created first and out of men came females. That's completely scientifically inapt. The bones of Lucy will confirm that. They go back 1.5 billion years. And monotheism only goes back slightly over 6,000 years. So that dispels that myth. We know female gender was on this planet first. Mitochondrial DNA and science confirms that. Now, when you go back, as I've said, when you look in the Hindu cultures, the Egyptian cultures, and you look at some of the first beings, especially in the Dravidian/Hindu pantheon, they have an androgynous look. A lot of the Hindu deities always kind of had like feminine look, even if they were male, but they always look kind of feminine. When you look at Akhenaten in Egypt, he was a hermaphrodite. I've said this a million times. He had a voluptuous female type of body, but a masculine face. He was a representation of that androgyny. This is what people don't understand. So the first beings were androgynous beings. This is where homosexuality comes in. Okay, this is what people don't get. Look, I don't care about your sexual preference. Now, I can come out and say this. I have no discrimination against homosexuals. Do I condone that sexual choice? No, I don't. But I have no problem in saying that and taking a stance on it. But I don't hate them. I'm not going to go on a mission to attack and kill them. I just don't agree with the sexual lifestyle. Not because I'm homophobic. Because most people that are on a mission and are homophobic, you know what the reality is? Deep down inside, they're wrestling with their own personal homosexuality. That's the reality. Anybody that goes on a rant, and I see brothers on the internet that specifically do classes on homosexuality, attacking it and bashing it, what that is a cover-up to address some personal shit that they're dealing with within themselves. Because they're questioning if they're homosexual or not. That's the reality. Okay, trust me when I tell you that. Okay? When you look at the essence of it, and I bring up Krita Mutwa because you'll find in some African cultures, they were referred to as the guardians of the gateway. They were held as highly spiritual beings because they were revered in some cultures to protect the realm, the gate from this realm, quote unquote, to the next. And that's why when you look at some of them and some of their mannerisms outside of their sexual preference, you're not going to understand this if you're zoned in on the sexual aspect of it. A lot of them are more spiritually in tune than regular heterosexual people are. That's a reality. Okay? And I've done a lot of counseling, readings, and consultations for homosexuals. Trust me when I tell you. And when I pull their spirits down, there's some powerful spirits. So I don't care what anybody else thinks. Again, I couldn't care. I'm telling you from my experience. And I don't want you to accept my experience because that's my experience. Okay? So we need to know where to put that in its perspective. So we see, I bring that up because there's also a homosexual agenda now going on. We see it. And that was a ritual that was reenacted in Orlando. Don't let them bullshit you. Go ahead. You had a question?
Oh, no. But I'll go ahead and say this here, because not only did Krita Mutwa speak on it, the Dogon's creation story speaks on it.
Correct.
And I was sitting here trying to think of the author's name. I have her book. It's a recent book.
Mm-hmm.
It's Intimacy.
Oh, that's not Judith Light. That's
Intimacy and something. But she also speaks on it as well. And
right.
I think that's more of a, I think she's from
and that came out in the last
African.
2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She speaks on it as well as what
correct.
Their purpose.
Right.
And it's not, like you said, it's not a sexual thing, but what their purpose was in the community.
Right. And that's a good point you bring up. Even look at the deity Happy in Egypt. Happy looks like a female. He's got breasts. Mm-hmm. That's one of the sons of Horus. Look at the depiction of the statues and the images and drawings of the deity Happy. Now, I'm glad you bring that up because here's the thing. When we look at it from this perspective, like you just brought up, you know, it's hard not to get locked into, all the indoctrination about homosexuality. So we can get thrown off a base, and it's hard to really look at it from a broader perspective. The problem is this: if we keep thinking in that systematic way, we're never going to get to the essence of what this is really all about. And this is part of the homosexual agenda. So now they're making it look like it's the sex thing, and now there is a homosexual agenda like Empire and all that. That's promoting the sexual aspect of homosexuality amongst black males. It is, no doubt. Because now they're trying to promote this, only the sexual aspect of it, because they know the power that it represents on the spiritual level. That's why I said earlier, the blood of androgynous beings and innocent children is the most powerful for them. Trust me when I tell you that. If you walked in certain circles, you know that. Okay? They don't want you to know that. So they're trying to captivate a certain energy. You got to pay attention when all these things that have been going on the last 2 years, going back to Trayvon Martin. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Growing up in New York, I've seen police brutality since the 70s. This ain't nothing new to me. Okay?
Exactly, nothing new.
People think it's new because you're seeing it all the time now on YouTube and Facebook. There's nothing changed. I'm just trying to say they know now with the technology how to captivate your emotion. Because now, let me ask you a question. When Facebook first came on the scene, when was it ever used for a platform like this? Facebook was it was technically a social network when it very first came out, the first couple of years, to communicate on a social level. It was about entertainment, connecting with friends, family. Now it's become this big political social media platform to vent, whether it's about politics, religion, spirituality, sport. I mean, it's become like a meeting place for idiots. I hate to say it. Right? It's become a meeting place for idiots now, because now we have what we call with YouTube, social media, Facebook, we have what we call now computer gangsters. Everybody can sit behind a computer and talk a bunch of mess and not identify themselves. That's a coward. Like when I get people that come in my show, it's funny. They'll come in and they'll only be online as a guest, and they want to pop off at the mouth sometimes. It rarely happens. It's happened maybe 3 or 4 times. And what we'll do is we'll say, well, why don't you just call in on the phone, introduce yourself to the people, identify yourself, because if you can't do that, your opinion don't even mount. So I'm giving you the opportunity to do it. If not, I'm putting your ass on mute. You've been on the show. You heard me do it. And I just take you out of there. It's not worth it. The other thing is we can't get sucked in by these spiritual vampires. See, people like that want to lure us into a useless debate. Now, I'm just saying, let's get straight to it. If you want to talk about, and that show happened, we did a show on pedophilia in the conscious community, which is a topic nobody wants to address. It's a sickness. It needs to be addressed. Okay? We did a show on Africa Bambaataa, Dr. York, who else was in that whole mix? What you call it? Yahweh. Anyway, all these cult leaders that have come over the years, okay, and I for one, for years, was a staunch supporter of Dr. York and said he was innocent until I started working on the case internally and found out he was guilty as shit. And I have no qualms saying that. And I have no qualms. People say, well, how are you part of that organization for 20-something years and you just left it? Very easy. I uncovered the truth. And I found out I was in that idiot box like everybody else was for all those years. And there's things that I know that other people don't know. And I'm not going to sit here, and I can sit here, go listen to the show. I've provided documents, let me give an example. They'll say Dr. York took a plea bargain to free the women and the children. It's not true. As I was working on the case, at the time Dr. York took the plea bargain, the women and children were already released from prison. That's not why he took the plea bargain. I was one that would say that for years back in the day when I first was working on the case. And I was working on the case personally, right? Then there's another false statement. This is all I knew to find out that this dude was guilty. Real simple, okay? His medical records, not his personal doctor, that they came out with this false thing. He has no STDs. Yes, he did. You can pull up the medical records right online. You can go on to nubianism.com. You can go to the court documents. You can email me. I'll send them over to you. The man had chlamydia and herpes 1 and 2. It's right there on his medical records. All the victims majority of the victims had the same thing. Now, when that test came back, this is when I knew the dude was guilty. They said, well, they could have tampered with that. How do we know that that's real? Well, by law, he was offered to get his own personal doctor. I want everybody to be clear on this. This is when I knew the dude was guilty as crap, after talking to some of the victims. Say you're incarcerated, you brother, and they accuse you of molesting children, right? And these children have STDs, such as herpes and chlamydia. First thing they're going to do is test you, okay? Now, say that test comes back, which it did in Dr. York's case, as being positive. And you say, nah, man, I believe you guys tampered with that sample. It's your constitutional right. This is what was offered to Dr. York. They go, well, that's fine. You can pick your own doctor, And he has the right to guard the sample, monitor it, retest it, and see if it lines up. Now, you would be like, if you knew you didn't have it, you would be like, let's do it. Because that's going to come back negative and show what I'm saying. He refused to take the second test. That's all you need to know. That's when it opened the door for me going in other directions. So I want to be clear on that so everybody knows. Okay? I would have took that test right off the bat. And we were suggesting for him to take that test, and he didn't want to take that test. You understand? And that was a red flag at the time. I didn't look at the bigger picture. But as I started uncovering more things, anyway, long story short, I want to turn. You can go listen to that show. We have the whole thing on the show. That's the reality. Now, look, I know. Look, if I was in that organization for over 20 years and can walk away, people are zombies. People see the problem we have as Melanites in America. We have Messiahite syndrome. That's the problem. We want some savior to do it for us. We look for one. Whoa, there's no way he could have did that because he was this great black teacher or leader. It's the same thing with Umar Johnson. I don't hate on Umar Johnson, but Umar Johnson should just been a man and said, I got caught with a stripper. That's it. Don't make you any less than who you are, brother. But to sit up there and call that woman a conscious hoe, well, that was a conscious hoe you had sexual intercourse with. What does that make you? You understand what I'm saying? Don't try to flip the game. And at that time, you were telling everybody you were celibate. That's all I need to know, brother. We don't even need to discuss further. Rather than him just go, you know what? I'm a human being. I'm a man. I made a mistake. That's it. I'd be cool with that. No problem, brother. Shake your hand. Let's move on. Because it's part of our nature. A man has sexual desires. A female has sexual desires. Dude was traveling, got caught out there. His mind started wandering and he wanted to go get with a big booty stripper. That's it. Does that disintegrate anything he ever did? No. Now, Dr. York's case, yes. Because when you're molesting 1-year-old children, if I see you and I get personally, that's a whole nother story. It's not going to be pretty. Same thing with Africa Bambaataa. We should have dealt with that our own way. And the brothers that I do the show with, we remember, I had him on the show. He was one of the chapter presidents. He can tell you he was there. I was there. You understand? So I'm telling you, not from hearsay, from third-party information. I was there. I spent personal time with Dr. York in his house, side by side. I relocated and adjusted my whole life. Moved to Georgia. Was on the land, the whole nine. Me and many other people. So I'm telling you from being there firsthand experience. As I started to progress, I started to uncover stuff. And I do not support anybody that harms innocent children. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you taught that was great. All that stuff to me goes out the window. It's not a reality no more. You understand? So what happens is the ones that can't awake from this sleep of zombieism, they start taking the defense. Now all these people will say Africa Bambaataa is innocent, Dr. York is innocent, but they never once can give you any concrete factual information other than he was set up, the white man's trying to get him. The white man didn't force Umar Johnson to have sex with that big booty stripper in the hotel. Stop it. And believe me, Umar Johnson or Dr. York is not that important for the white man and this government to stop and focus their attention because they are that critical in the world. That's not true. If you believe that, you're just as stupid as the people that support them and say that they were innocent. It's just not a reality. Okay? But anyway, outside of that, I don't want to turn. What's up, Brother Yehuda? Anybody have any questions before we move on? I didn't want to shift it to that, but I know that topic kind of came up, and I don't want to shift the show into that. Go ahead, sister.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been to a conscious meeting, but
Sure.
I had someone that, tells me things from time to time. Now, what came up talking of the government and the androgyny and
Okay.
the sexual thing, maybe you've covered it, but I'm not.
No, that's okay.
But it's on YouTube.
Right.
They're saying that Michelle Obama is male.
All right, I've heard that.
Good. Well, can you shed some light on
right.
that?
On that, let me tell you this. I've seen that video. No, that's okay. That's okay. I use social media as a platform. Now, if you know, when you look at my videos, I disable comments. I'm not interested. Anybody that watches my videos, I disable all the comments because I'm not on YouTube to show you what I know and then you contact me and then we get into this back and forth dialogue. That's what some people do because they, whatever. Okay. Now, you got to be careful. On the flip note, if we use social media as a platform to reach the masses in the right way, it's a great tool. That's why we do the internet radio show now. We do this. We do the YouTube, etc. It's a great tool. But there's a lot of garbage on YouTube, too. I got to keep it real with you. In my research on that, there's no truth to that. I've read the theories. I've seen Jay-Z and Beyonce a part of the Illuminati. See, that's all hype. First of all, if you really knew what the Illuminati was, it's not what you think it is.
Right.
So they have no knowledge. Just because they do a hand signal, or they're doing this, or they're doing this, and oh, they're connected to the Illuminati. They're not connected to the Illuminati. Trust me. They're not intelligent enough to be the Illuminati. And just because they have a certain stature, and because they have a certain level of finances, trust me, that doesn't qualify. If you know what the Illuminati really is, you have to go back to its origins. And I'm not talking about Adam Weishaupt and the Masonic Order, and it goes way beyond that. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever believe that?
I did back in the day. Sure did. Sure did.
See, everybody fell for that. I've been telling people that that's all a lie.
It's an illusion.
I've been telling that because I know you recognize me.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I remember you from coming all the time back in the day. Sure.
I've been telling people that, nah, Jay-Z, Beyonce, all these rappers, nah, they don't have that power.
That's right.
To get into the Illuminati.
That's correct.
Highly played.
No, but see, remember what I was saying a few minutes ago. But but what I was saying a few minutes ago.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I'll let you finish. When you get captivated by it,
But
you get.
how? But why do you get captivated?
You wanna-
be a free thinker. You're very educated.
But you know why?
That shouldn't have
I can only speak for me. I can tell you how I did. I can't speak for you or anybody else. You know how I did? When you're raised a certain way, and when certain influences and your life is shaped a certain way, and I had a lot of rebelliousness in me. I had a lot of warrior nature in me. So when I first came into consciousness, but I wasn't channeling it in the right direction. So I would get captivated by a lot of information, because I think what tended to happen, whether we were conscious of it or not, and we might have thought at that time we were free thinkers, because a lot of us, when we were in those schools at that time, we thought we were free thinkers. I did. But what would happen is, I think what we didn't realize, we were using that as a scapegoat sometimes. Now, we weren't conscious of it. I'm not saying you. I can say myself and other people I knew at the time. So, but you're right. The point is, what I dwell on now is where I'm at now, and I lose, and I deal with that past experience as a learning lesson. But anyway, finish what you were going to say before you forget. I don't want you to forget.
I think that was it.
That was it? Okay, good.
What about the entertainers being murdered?
As far as what? Rituals?
As far as, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a flat price?
Listen, what I can tell you on this, now here's the thing. If we see a video on YouTube about, I've seen those videos too, the ones you're talking about.
So like Prince or Michael Jackson or Whitney Houston.
All right, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's very easy to take symbolism for an example, and I see how they play this game. Now, do some of them practice what has nothing to do with us, what they call modern day Satanism? Yeah, some of them deal with that, but it holds no power. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. Now, I've heard Prince was a ritual. I heard Whitney Houston. I saw the breakdowns. Clyde Barker. I saw all the symbolisms. Now, you got to understand this. You can connect all that. I can take any scenario. If I look hard enough, I can connect a lot of things, and it would make a lot of sense. But bottom line is this: as quick as we can say that was a ritual, and here is some, information to allude to that possibility. The question I would ask the individual: how can you personally confirm it? That's all I'm saying. I'm not talking about if I sat there and said to you, outside of that video you watched that influenced you, that what you saw, and I'm not saying that some of that stuff doesn't line up mathematically, some of it does. The question is, how would you, the individual, confirm that first for yourself before you try to confirm it for a multitude? You understand? Because I can take not just their deaths, we can go back to we can go back to Dr. Ben. Okay? Now, if I look at Dr. Ben's death, and you look at his burial, he was buried in an African Methodist church. And the ritual was very Christianized. There was a lot of symbology in that. And I can come up to this whole conclusion, how these Luciferians were trying to influence their way in the ritual, because there was a lot of Christianity symbols in that burial for somebody that was an Egyptologist. I personally was not too captivated by it. I thought he should have went out another way, with all due respect. But I'm just saying, we can take anybody's death and look at their life and look at how they died. We could do it with Bob Marley. How many conspiracy theories can you come up with Bob Marley and tie it into spirituality? We can do it with Haile Selassie to the point where he became the Messiah. You understand? Now, we could have a debate all night, because Rastafarians view the Haile Selassie thing on a multitude of levels. Some say he was the Messiah. You understand? Some have, we heard after, what happened after he passed along. It wasn't Haile Selassie that taught a lot of those things. His followers elevated him to that godlike style. I know he said he was a conquering lion of Ethiopia, right? And that's attributed in the book of Revelation. I get all that. But When you look at the facts, and I say this with all due respect, he couldn't even conquer Ethiopia. You understand? So he did not fulfill biblical prophecy as they say. When you look at it in its entirety, and I say that with all due respect, it doesn't take away from the great work he did do.
True.
I'm not negating that. I'm just saying what happens is we take stuff and we run with it. Right? Same thing with Dr. York. Dr. York came on the scene and said, I speak to Rizikians and, all these different, and we all co-signed it. Oh, that's deep. Yes, you do. I did. But we couldn't confirm it because we were living the experience through his eyes. You understand? And I myself was guilty of that. And I have no shame in saying that because I'm a man. You understand?
So you're no more part of the...
Completely disconnected from that.
Right?
Officially left that, I want to say, 2010.
Okay.
So it's been about 6 years now. Officially separated from that. And again, I want to be this clear to those that know me from that time. I wouldn't change anything from my experiences. It was part of my growth. It's a part of me. I got out of it what I needed to get out of it, but to get me to the point of where I'm at now.
So the reason why I come to a lot of these functions, not only your function,
right,
but there's other conscious functions in the community that I attend, it's just to get knowledge that I had to learn when I was in school.
There you
know
go.
what I'm saying? That's the only reason why I do this.
And that's fine. And that's a good thing. But but the thing that's beautiful about that is the whole objective of this level of knowledge is creating your own spiritual path. That's what I mean, creating your own spiritual path. One thing you're going to learn as you keep studying, there is no right or wrong way. Because everybody in here is going to adjust their spiritual life based on their own personal needs. So there's no way. But the problem that comes in when we try to come up with one established methodology as if this is the only right way. You need to be Nation of Islam only. You need to be a Nubian only. You need to be a black Hebrew Israelite only. That cuts you off. You're done. You're limited. So once you take from what you can from them, and I'm not saying that there's nothing in those schools of learning that there's some beneficial stuff in there, but at the same token, there's a lot of garbage in there. Let's keep it real. There's a lot of garbage in there. So I'm not negating it altogether. I'm just saying a real God, a real deed. I always tell people this. Start asking people when they say I'm God or I'm goddess. Say, brother, sister, can you define to me in your own words? Not something rehearsed that you read or heard in a lecture. What does being God or goddess mean to you? I want to hear it in your words. 9 out of 10 times they're going to quote something like, I hear all the definitions, the rehearsed definitions. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Becoming a God or a goddess simply is being in control and the governor and ruler of your spirituality and creating your own spiritual path. That's being a real God or a goddess. Not being influenced or dictated by anything or anybody. It doesn't mean you can't have elders, teachers, leaders, examples, and guides. What it does mean you get to the point where you got to let go of the hand of the person that's holding. It's just like a child, right? The child's got to grow up sometime. Child can't hold the mother's hand forever. At some point, you got to let the child go out into the world and experience it for themselves. It's the same thing with knowledge and information. I still know people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, they're still studying. They're up in an organization, and they just can't leave because they've been there so long. Really? I mean, come on. I know a brother, he's in his late 60s. He's still talking this Nation of Islam doctrine from the 60s and the 70s. It's like mentally you're dead, brother. I hate to say it, but you're dead. You're not evolving. You become stuck, and your consciousness gets cut off. That's a reality. And all you gotta do is talk to them to hear it.
But wouldn't you consider a lot of these doctrines a form of psychology, like religion?
Big time. Nubian doctrine is a form of psychology. Because why I say that? It'll tell you on one token it's not a religion and they don't deal with faith and belief, but then they create a system within the system that deals with rules, restrictions. You can't do this, you can't do that, you need to dress like this, you need to read the actual facts, the holy tab. It's basically another form of religion because in any school that we ever went through as Nubians back in the day, there was always the man figure, the savior figure, the Jesus type of figure. There was always a book or a scripture to follow, and then there was always that book and that scripture and that man was going to take you to some paradise. That's religion. You can't package it any other way. I don't care what anybody says. And all it did was change from school to school. If it wasn't the Anunnaki school, the Hebrew Israelite school, the Egyptian school, there was always, he was an incarnation of some type of savior figure in that school. If it wasn't Melchizedek, it was Rabboni Yeshua. Then it was Amenubi Ro'akata, and now it's Pa-Nabab Yanun. It's always, whatever school he's in, he always manifests himself as the supreme entity in that level of learning. So you always have to come up under that entity. That's the psychological aspect of it. And then they'll go around and tell you Nuwapu is not a religion. It is a religion. It's all founded in the principles of religion. and they're still stuck on doing their lectures on biblical quotes, and they say, well, we have to go into that book because that's the book that's keeping our people enslaved. Well, when do we stop using that book and keep reverting back to it over and over again? Because I don't want to hear no more lectures on the Bible and the Quran. I don't care how many people need it. If them people ain't got it by now, let's move on.
Yeah, I didn't drop that
Long time ago. That's right. So, yes, I do believe all those schools, whether it's the Black Hebrew Israelites, the Nuwapians, or the Nation of Islam, they're all levels of psychology because they deal with established systems of thinking and established religious schools of thought.
It doesn't allow you to be a free thinker.
You can't. Because if I tell you you're God, but you're not a bigger God than Farrakhan or Dr. York, you understand that? You're God, but if you think outside of the rules and regulations of the organization, now all of a sudden, no, bro, that's not acceptable. You understand? But I just sit there and give you years of information of how you're God and you're original, and nobody can dictate to what you do. But when you start thinking outside of the way the organization's ideology thinks, now you're a troublemaker. Now you're a black devil. Now you're just bitter. I get it all since I left. I get it all. I get all the comments. But they all stay away from me because anybody that's watching this video knows me. You know where to find me. If you want to debate me on it, I'm right here.
I've heard that he's supposed to be coming out by September.
I've heard,
November.
yeah. That's his buffoon son, Prince York,
Yeah.
who doesn't know anything about the case, who's on YouTube, and he just got tore up. If you look at some of the responses to it, he just got ripped apart.
So
You know how
what do
many,
you think?
Yahuda, how many times have we heard he's getting out since 2002? You know how many times we heard the ball's coming? You need to come to the Nuwapu Bowl this year. He's going to be there at the bowl. He's free. We've been hearing this since 2002.
That's why
I'll bet you right now, and I say this on camera, he will not be coming out in 2016. And anybody that tells you to bet him 5,000, see, I'll bet you 5 stacks on it. If they really stood behind it, tell them to put their money where their mouth is. I'll tell you right now, it ain't going to happen. But anyway, I want to let's bypass that. I don't want to turn this into a Nuwapi and Dr. York thing. But just so we're clear on that. Anybody have any questions moving forward? Anybody?
What attributes would you use to describe yourself?
Me?
Of your learning and your journey,
Okay.
and where you began to.
Okay. Attributes are just titles or examples.
Not even titles, but just attributes.
Attributes. I would describe myself this. I do have a warrior nature. I'm not interested in what people think anymore. That's not my concern. I don't get sucked into human emotion. Not that I'm not compassionate, but I don't get sucked into human emotion in the sense that can sidetrack us. Meaning, if you're not getting it by now, you're just not getting it. I don't mean to sound callous, because if we stop and wait for everybody, we're going to miss the bigger picture. Because sometimes in us stopping to help everybody, we get lost ourselves. So I would describe myself, I definitely know I have a warrior nature. I work with a lot of warrior energy and warrior spirits. But right now I would classify myself, which really made me make that leap genetically, is working with black magic and understanding what it really is. So I consider myself a black magician on the real terms of what it represents. Because once I started working black magic, I came to the reality of everything I learned prior to that was an illusion. You understand? Because once I learned that I can control my subjective realm and take those experiences and balance it out with the objective, I realized there's nothing anybody can tell me outside of that. And that's my personal experience. So I would describe myself as a warrior and a black magician. Regardless, I don't care. That doesn't line up with anybody's ideology. And when I say black magician, I just want to be clear again. I'm not talking about taking goats' necks and slitting them on throat. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about becoming a master at manipulating the subconscious mind, training it to do what it needs to do.
So, why do you wear 5-star pendant?
Okay, the Baphomet symbol.
Baphomet.
Another symbol that years ago I was always taught in Spookyville.
Because I'm going back too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
The Baphomet symbol was always taught to us years ago when we were in religious frame of mind and religious frame of thinking, that it was satanic and it was evil, and the Knights of Templar worship Baphomet in their sacred temples. That's all bullcrap. Bottom line is this: anybody that's an alchemist or a black magician, Baphomet is just a symbol. It's not a literal deity. And the Templars actually upheld it when they worked some of their spiritual rituals. How do I know this? Because I'm also second degree or OTO, or the Templar Orientalist. This is how I learned about it the right way. And people that think they know about that, they'll sit there and tell you OTO and Crowley and all that stuff is evil, but they know nothing about it. What Baphomet really represents, outside of Alphonsus Levi's books, because everybody gives you the Levi definition of it, it's just an alchemical symbol. When you break it down, it represents, one, androgyny. When you look at Baphomet, and I've gone over this before in other classes, when you look at Baphomet, it has the goat face of a man, it has breasts of a female, You also see one finger up, one down, which alludes to the 7 principles of Tahuti, as above, so below. You also have him perched on the earth. It has the 4 elements represented in the symbol. You have the scales representing the water on the abdomen. You have the kundalini rising in the forehead. You see his pineal gland activated. You see him also with wings, which represents the air element. And the reason why he's perched on the earth, just like a goat is perched up high on a mountain, because it sees all of its subjects. So what Baphomet really represents, and when you work with it in spiritual magic, it's a powerful symbol. It represents totality, equilibrium, masculine and feminine forces, androgyny, as above, so below, in the 4 elements.
But let me ask you this. Do you really think we need symbols?
Some people do. The reason why, symbols are important to certain individuals for certain reasons. You may not need symbols. No, that's possible. But sigis and symbols have always been a part of working magic because they represent a certain energy to the subconscious mind. Let me give you an example. Not saying that this happens to you. Colors, vibrations, and symbols affect the subconscious mind whether you're aware of it or not. If you're driving down, you know why the golden arches of McDonald's are yellow? Do you know the color yellow incites appetite? How many times when you were younger, maybe not you, but I'm sure it's had to happen whether you may not have been aware of it. How many times have you just been driving late at night and saw something and all of a sudden you became hungry? You never really understood it. You might not have been hungry a minute before you saw it. Symbols and colors, not just symbols. Colors affect our vibrational moods and frequencies,
Well,
consciously and subconsciously. But go ahead.
well, I could disagree with that because that depends on your level of vibration.
Right,
If
that's
you
why I
brought up
said.
into that.
Right, but remember, to your knowledge, you may not feel like you need them, and you may not. That's why I said, to some people they are a level of importance, some people they are not. But what I'm saying is, there could be some that affect you subconsciously you may not be conscious of. You may not think they're affecting you. Now, you may be at that point. I'm not saying you are not. I'm speaking on a whole level. So maybe they're not necessary for you. That could be. Because even when you go into Palo, for an example, sigis are important because in those sigis, they open up higher states of consciousness. Because when you study the elements, like for an example, since you brought up Baphomet, we'll do this. Somebody had a question?
Well, why couldn't you just dabble into the metaphysics itself?
Right, but this is what I'm saying. When you work with the subjective realm, for an example, Baphomet, just by the very thought process, when I say those words, totality, equilibrium, now I can go into darkness of my subconscious mind and focus on that energy. The symbol is just a physical manifestation of it. So in essence, no, I do not need it. You're right, I don't. But if I go into where all things exist, if I go into that darkness and astral travel, I don't need anything. I don't need candles, I don't need incense, I don't need any of those
But I have to say
objects.
one thing though, I use symbols to help me remember things, like big subjects.
That's
I
what
use the symbols.
exactly.
I
So,
use a little symbol to remember something that's huge.
well, there you go. So when I look at Baphomet, it's a reminder of those things I just mentioned. So if I have an implement of Baphomet, say on a shrine, that's what it is. It's just, it represents or is a reminder of that consciousness. Same thing. If you have a statue of Heru, or if you have a statue, as I said earlier, of Tahuti, when I look at a statue of Tahuti on my altar, I don't look at Tahuti as a physical being that I need to sit in front of and worship. When I see Tahuti, automatically my subconscious mind clicks into wisdom and knowledge. It's just a symbol that reflects that. But when I go into doing my spiritual work in the darkness, that stuff is non-existent now. The symbol is just a representation of the objective realm. Correct. Say it again. To get you there. That's it. But once you leave the objective realm, all that stuff is irrelevant. Once you tap into your subjective realm, that just is. And some people don't need it. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
It just reminds me of what we were speaking about earlier with Dr. Bruce Bynum. It trains you to. It gives you right and your left something to do.
Correct.
At the same time. So your left brain may see the symbol, but your subconscious is working on what that symbol represents. Which you're not really.
And that's the important part, what it represents. Right. Because if you start getting caught up in the physical aspect of it, then again we're back to religion. You understand? Remember we were talking about candle magic the last class. When we were talking about candle magic, the colors and the vibrations was the more important thing when working candle magic.
Right.
And understanding the scientific aspect of the spectrum and the colors, because colors affect our moods and our vibrations all the time. They incite certain emotions, consciously and subconsciously. That's why the colors. Remember, the sister was asking that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was something along that lines. But anyway, anybody else have any other questions? Go ahead, brother.
I mean, I just want to know why you keep saying that some people don't need symbols when everybody needs symbols.
Well,
that's one of the main ways you tap into your subconscious
correct,
mind.
correct.
So a person that don't even know, they don't even probably know what you mean when you say subconscious mind. But
right.
because you need to tap into that, you need the symbol.
Right. Well, here's the thing. There's the objective.
You're talking about advanced.
Correct.
So
that's what I'm saying. The subconscious mind is always creating symbols, whether you're conscious of it or not.
Oh yeah.
So you might think, that's why I say on the physical surface, you may not need that tangible symbol, because remember, your dreams, for an example, are symbolic.
Yeah, but no, I'm just saying for the video purpose. I
I
don't want you to
got
say.
No.
I don't want you to say some people don't need it.
Right.
Because everybody needs it. Because
Correct.
everybody don't know how to tap into it.
Everybody's going to need it on varying levels. Let me say that. So let me correct it. You're right.
I don't want to keep going back to
No. Okay. Well, yeah.
But in Buddhism, they always tell you you need to quiet the mind. You need to discipline the mind.
Correct.
Especially the inner chatter, to silence the mind to get to a certain nirvana, a certain pinnacle.
I get that.
And there's no symbol. You know what I'm saying?
But then think of this. Then why would they have Buddhist temples with statues, candles, altars, and implements? Because those are symbols. Incense. Those are. But listen to what I'm saying. You're wearing a symbol around your neck right now.
Yeah, but it's just.
But I'm saying but what I'm saying is, you're wearing it for a reason. So what I'm saying is, don't ask yourself on the conscious surface, because consciously you're saying it's just a symbol. I get that part. But what I'm saying is, you put it on for a reason whenever you wear it. I'm not saying you wear it every day, but you put it on for a reason. Okay, you wear it every day. So you need. What I'm saying is, it's not something you can just answer right off the surface. Subconsciously, that represents something to you. You don't just get up and every day and just, like any implement or pendant I wear, it represents something to my subconscious mind. I can only speak for myself.
Right,
you understand?
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Right. But what I'm saying to the Buddhist thing, and I agree with what you're saying about nirvana, but in Buddhism, there's a lot of symbolism that gets them to that state of nirvana.
Yeah, but it doesn't really get them to the spiritual aspect of it, because you cannot carry a symbol into the spiritual realm.
No, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I just said. What I'm trying to say is, when you get to the subjective realm, which is outside of person, place, thing, outside of third density vibration, then you're there. But what I'm saying is,
right, because if I.
But before they got there, though, but what I'm saying is, before they got there, if somebody goes into a Buddhist temple and does a meditational ritual, before they got into their state of meditation, they started on the objective realm. And there was some symbolization there. They're in a temple. There's architecture. In architecture and design, that's symbolic. It represents. The altar has implements. They have the sound bowl, which is a spiritual implement. You understand what I'm saying?
And
I'm
they
gonna say
train
one thing.
themselves.
I'm gonna say one thing.
Hold on, one second, we'll finish it. Yeah.
I'm in no way or form I'm a part of any religious, but I
Correct.
try to find enlightenment.
Correct.
I do forms of meditation on my own. And I'm saying I'm my own master, my own destiny, my own. I control my own universe.
Right.
I mean, I already said. You said there is a bad or good. Everything is one.
Correct.
Same thing. I look at cold and heat. Same thing.
Just varying degrees.
Right.
Correct.
So I could take a lighter. I could flip it on. I could
Correct.
put my hand in it, and I won't get burned until I lose that concentration.
Right.
So I'm saying, but nobody taught me that. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
Nobody taught me none of this thing. What I seek enlightenment, and you can gather.
But here's the question, though.
From the universe, because you know that's true.
Right, but this could be. Let me ask you this: before, this is how you got to look at that. I would say yes, you're right, but here's the thing: you had to raise yourself up to the awareness, even if you did it yourself. Meaning this: if before you knew about heat and cold, right? You came to a certain level of awareness where you were conscious of what it represented. Obviously, when you came out of the womb and you were in, okay, what I'm saying is this. So there was still that state of awareness, you understand, that had to be brought to your attention. So I do believe we can raise ourselves up to it, but there was still an objective part of that experience that we can't negate that got you to that higher state. So what I'm trying to say is this. I always use this example. When we deal about spirituality or consciousness, even the fictitious God concept, the point is, at some point, somebody sat us down when we were of age and introduced in their mind, not that it was right, that this is God, this is the devil. Now, prior to that, before we were introduced to that concept, the creator, spirituality, that stuff existed prior to that, before we were introduced to it, but we were not conscious of it until somebody gave us something objective. And then what happened was we took that objectivity and we created our own path, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what I am saying is, if we're physical beings, we can't negate the objective realm where we do need, and this is where symbols come in on that level. To a certain aspect, we do use symbols, and I stress this, whether we're conscious of it or not. Now, we may not see sometimes how we're utilizing it on the subjective realm. So they do play a part. That's why I use the example of, regardless, if you say, I'm just saying this, if you don't ever need symbols, then the thing is, there's a reason why subconsciously you haven't tapped in deep enough why you wear that around your neck on a daily basis.
No.
Because it means something to you.
I said yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I said it does.
But that's a symbol. So, but you understand what I'm saying?
Cannabis, so
Okay, so that's what it means to you. You like cannabis. You like to smoke cannabis and what cannabis represents. So you wear that symbol as a reminder. Now, the question is,
I mean, I don't necessarily need it.
you don't need it, but
I do smoke it.
Okay.
And I can let it go for 2 years.
Okay.
And I'm not incarcerated.
Right.
So it's not really
I got you. But the symbol does, at the end of the day, it still holds a certain level of representation to you. Not that you're dependent on it.
Right. See, I'm saying there's no power in it.
Right. There's not. But symbols do represent energy. Yeah, that's all.
Also, in
Okay.
the pyramids, there are so much symbols.
Correct. Because now, again, if we focus on what they represent as far as states of consciousness, I have no problem with that. But do we need a symbol as it's mandatory? Because now talismans are a different thing. We didn't even touch on that. But I have no problem with that. You understand?
Right, because you said earlier, let's leave this kind of thing alone for a while, and let's move on to something
Correct.
else.
Well, let's leave the religious aspect of Kemet alone, because Kemet is really a magical, mystical system. The Coming Forth by Day, is a book of spells and incantations. It's not a religious holy text like most people in the conscious community portray it to be. 97 people that read the Coming Forth by Day, Book of the Dead, they don't even know what it's saying. What does it mean when it says, I cast my form into the visible manifestation of a serpent? What does that mean? What is it talking about? It's all symbolic, representing what's going on inside of you subconsciously. It's not a literal text. It's actually a metaphysical text. That's why I was saying the topic of the class, not to get caught up in the... Go ahead, hold on, let me get him real quick.
Also, if you read the 6 and 7 books of Moses,
Yes.
it's all about black magic.
It deals with black magic, yes. But the title will kind of throw you off, though.
Yes.
Because really the 6 and 7 books of Moses have nothing to do
No.
with religion when you read it. And again, when you take that stuff, again, what I suggest to people now in this day and time is, when you study that information, take from it what you can get and how you can apply it to your personal spirituality. See, what happens is we tend to focus on what's wrong with stuff. I used to do that. Don't waste your energy with that no more. It's a waste of time. If you read the Quran, there's stuff you can get out of the Quran that you can apply to your everyday life. But there's a bunch of garbage in there that is just completely ridiculous, that serves no purpose. You can read, for an example, Khalil Gibran, the Prophet. It's a spiritual work. It has a lot of stuff there that you can incorporate into your daily life. So take from it what you can get. And what you can't get, just toss it to the side. Just say, I don't need that. That's it. That's what I do. So I don't want to paint the picture that all of those religions and all those schools of thought and all those philosophies are completely bad. They're not. But we can't be afraid to address that a lot of it's garbage. Let's keep it real. A lot of it's garbage.
Hey, what do you think about this young cat named Young Pharaoh?
Yeah, I've actually seen his videos. First of all, you want to know what? The name alone tells me where his mindset is at. When you call yourself Young Pharaoh Allah, I'm a little confused why you're incorporating Egyptology with Islam. And really, he's heavily influenced by Dr. York's teachings.
Yes.
And I know he had a little riff and beef with Polite, and at one point he was kind of trying to link up Polite. Not saying that he was, one of Polite's hardcore students. I mean, I do agree with some of the stuff he says.
True.
He does make some good viewpoints. I think where he got attacked was his whole extraterrestrial stance, and I think it got blown out of proportion.
But Malachi Z, you're dabbling in that too.
Sure. But I think when he made statements, he was trying to say, you guys are attacking me, but how come you're not attacking Polite, who was a student of Dr. York at one
But my
point.
thing is, I don't like how he handles it.
Oh no, I agree. It's very aggressive and negative. I agree. So yeah, I mean, some of the stuff he says I can get with. Some of it, I'm not going to sit there and watch a bunch of buffoonery. The arguing back and forth is a waste of time and energy. What does it serve?
That's what turning me away.
And then he's on video threatening to do body harm to people. You got to be careful. You're on video threatening to hurt somebody, and you're on probation.
But
Not smart.
But young Marcus seems to be handling it well there.
Yeah, he handles it a little more low key. But personally, that's their thing. I'm not, I go back with Polite when he was first a new opera.
Because you were part of all that.
I was part of all that at that time. Like I say, hey, power to them brothers. They doing their thing, whatever.
Hey, all right.
But I'm not caught up in all that. One video I just saw was interesting. He just put one up with a Mortal Technique, which I thought was pretty good. Because he was dropping some science on some of the stuff that's going on. But my thing is, if you're going to have a debate for 3 hours and charge somebody $50 to come, and all it is an argument back and forth, and there's no solution, I don't vibe with that, man. To me, that's a waste of time and energy. Anyway. Anybody else? All right. So, we got about 30 minutes. Again, the whole purpose is we got to get this right, especially in this day and time with all that's going on out here. Psychologically, they're trying to feed and suck our emotions dry. And this is why, go ahead.
When you say they, who are you referring
When I say they, I'm not referring to the white man. Let's be crystal clear on that.
Who are you?
When I say they, all individuals who have their own personal agenda. I'm saying they. Anybody that's against, unity, you understand? Anybody that's against creating a positive vibe, I'm just using basic terms. Anybody that's against, for an example, you have your own perception of what spirituality is. So anybody that's against your personal ideology is going to be a threat to you. You understand? So what I'm saying is, we're all never going to 100% agree on everything. That's a reality. But we do need to have a core essence of what we can come together on. So when I say they, anybody that gets together on a personal level to manipulate other people financially, physically, mentally, and emotionally, they have an agenda. That's what I mean when I say they. That's it. And we know politicians have had an agenda. That's a fact. We know religious leaders have had an agenda. So it's not secluded to one race, one individual, one profession. This happens on a multitude of levels because religious leaders have taken advantage of us for many years. Politicians, law enforcement, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So when I say they, that's what I mean when I say they. So I'm just using that term to cover a broad spectrum. Okay? If that makes sense to you. Okay? That's what I mean when I say they. Because I don't want to paint this picture. I do not succumb that I do not give white people that power. To sit there and say there's white supremacy, subconsciously you're under the illusion that if I say the white man is the devil, what am I confirming subconsciously, whether I'm aware of it or not? I am saying if he is the devil, I am confirming this God concept. And I am putting him on the same stature by saying he's a white supremacist devil. I am confirming everything I'm claiming I don't stand for. And I'm not conscious of it. So I don't believe he has any power to initiate white supremacy. That's the garbage thing. You can sit here and go, well, what about everything in the world and everything he's doing? Well, who allows him to do it? So then I have to push the question back on you is, if you come from a school of thought and say you're a black Hebrew Israelite, and we use them for an example, because they'll sit there and they'll say the white man's the devil and the white man did this and the white man did that. And I've asked them this question the last 3 years and I cannot get a legitimate answer. If that is true, why in the world did this black God you're talking about that's so supreme allow the creation of the white man to exist? And I get no answer. Well, you see, brother, the white man, I didn't ask you genetically how you thought the white man came about. It's two different things. When I ask that question, people revert to genetically how they believe the white man was created. I heard the Esau stories. I've heard the Flugerods and the Canaanite story. I've heard how that's all theology. It cannot 100% be proven. That's not the question I'm posing. I'm saying if you are a black Hebrew Israelite and you say that your God, Yahweh, the original black God of the original black Hebrew Israelites, who was superior, who was first, who was original, and then you want to tell me this cockamamie story how Jacob and Esau came out of the womb of a human and one was red and ruddy and the other was black, and then you can't genetically explain that to me, but you give me this cockamamie story how you believe it came about, but I'm taking it back to the spiritual. All right, I'll give you that. Who cares? I'm saying the very God that you're recruiting me for is the very God that's the cause of your chaos and your problems. Because that's the God that created this devil. You're not addressing that to me. It's no different than when a Christian goes, look, brother, you need to come to our church and be saved. Well, the very God you're trying to bring me into your church is the same God that's caused wars, death, famines, destructions. And this God must love to watch people fight and kill each other because he never steps in and does anything about it. It's no different than when a Hebrew Israelite or a member of the Nation of Islam, they're trying to recruit you for the same madness. So why isn't this black a law? Okay? Why can't you explain to me why did he allow the devil to exist? Well, you see, brother, I get faith, belief, opinion. The bottom line is why I bring all that up to say. To show you they're in no different mind state than a Christian is in the Christian church. It's no different. It's just another packaged version of it. That's it. Because if you can't answer that question for me, I'm not buying it. You can give me your theory. And every time I ask it, they start going into this rhetoric about how the white man was created genetically. I'm not asking you that. I don't care about that. I'm saying your black God allowed the white man to rule. 1. Your black God allowed slavery to happen. 2. Or is it deeper than that, is what I'm saying? Or are we not looking at this correctly? Because this black God allowed, he sat by and watched his people go into slavery and be abused and tortured. He's watching them get shot right now as we sit here talking. Religion has nothing to do with it, is what I'm trying to tell you. Get out of that frame of mind. This is what Dr. Delbert Blair was trying to get people to see. Stop thinking like that. Because when you get trapped in that black and white thing, you will never take that genetic leap in your consciousness. You will be stuck here. You'll be playing the victim. You'll be complaining about what the white man did to you. Did what they did to us when we were back. First of all, none of us here was ever in slavery. Don't take that personal. It's going to get you mad because you was never shackled. You understand? And I got news for you. Do the statistics. Black people weren't the first people put into slavery. I'll leave you to do that research. Okay? That's a whole nother story. It's a whole nother class. Go ahead.
I want to know the views on Alex Crowley.
Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
My views on him. Okay.
Is he as a black magic?
Well, no.
Okay.
Aleister Crowley deals more with white magic under the illusion that it's black magic. Because Aleister Crowley he claims, let's establish who and what he was. And I'm telling you this being second degree in the OTO order. Not because I think it's important, you need to join it, but I want the experience of it so I can teach on it. And the other thing I want to make crystal clear, you have people that teach on Masonry, OTO, the Rosicrucians, and they know nothing about it. Because they've never been in the lodges, they've never been initiated, so they're speaking on what they read, what they heard, and what somebody said in a lecture. Now, if you're going to do that, then say you're teaching from a speculative perspective. I sat here and watched a brother here that did a lecture here, I'm not going to say his name, and he started talking about OTO, and I knew he didn't know what he was talking about, and I knew he never set foot in the lodge, because I went through those degrees, and everything he was saying, I could tell you where he read it in a book. What I am saying is, if you really want to know about that stuff, so you can teach on it, then get the experience and join for that reason. Not because you need to, not because it's necessary. I only did it because I wanted the experience so I could teach on it. So I'm telling you this, as far as teaching about Crowley and OTO, you're going to get the most, that's all white people stuff. Crowley was the devil, this and that. And then my next question is simply this. You're making that statement based on what you read in a book, what somebody told you, so you're giving it to me from a perspective. Well, let me give you the real deal, real simple. The OTO order, or what Crowley was based on, was Eastern mysticism. That's it. Okay? It's based on the whole story. If you're familiar with the Hashamite order of the assassins, all the degrees are based on that Hamasite order, going through what they call the Templars. That's all it is. Now, as far as the magical principles and what Crowley practiced, he claims he was in contact with a being called Al-Awas. Now, as quick as people are attacking the white aspect of Crowley, nobody's questioning Bobby Hemmett, who said Al-Awas was a black man. And that, the scripture that Al-Awas revealed, called what? What was the 4-chapter book?
Book of the Law.
The Book of the Law. Do what thou will shall be the whole of the law. Now, I'm saying this as quick as we played a race card. You go pull up Bobby Hemmett's videos right after you leave here. He said Al-Awas was a black man, and that the Book of the Law that was given to Al-Awas was for black people. I'm not making this shit up. You go look it up for yourself. Nobody wants to address that. Where did Bobby Hemmett get that from? Is what you should be asking yourself. Okay? Crowley believes when he
had his experience in the temples of Egypt, that this being Aloas manifested himself, and he what he believes, and I say believes, that this 4-chapter book of the law was given to him as a guideline, not a religious text, as a guideline, and it's used as the core text in the rituals and the degrees when you go through them. Okay? Saladin is the key character in those degrees. And how I know anybody that never been through OTO, because as I heard brothers talk about it, even in some lectures here, they never once mentioned that. So I would ask the brother, well, what specific degree is it that you're saying is Caucasian or is white? Well, I never get an answer. Because what it shows me is somebody that just reads stuff that's speaking from a speculative perspective. My thing is, that's fine, but don't teach on it as if you have the actual experience of it. And if you just feel like it's not important, then just don't talk about it. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you're going to sit there and say, well, that's all white people stuff, and Crowley was a devil and he was this and that, but you can't explain to me what about it was that made him that, then you got to explain. And I'm not, one sec, I got you. I'm not saying that what he taught, everything was right, because there's a lot of bullshit that he taught. You understand what I'm saying? But when I am saying, same thing, I went through Masonry. I'm a Master Mason and a Shriner. You know that. And the thing is everything in there correct? No. But I need to know what about it's not correct if I'm going to teach somebody. So if a young brother comes to me and says, I want to be a Mason, I can prepare him. You understand? Because most of those guys think it's some great deep secret, and it's not. What I'm trying to tell you. But how can I teach them what not about it is if I'm just going to read some speculative books? Because I got the Duncan's Ritual. I read all the degrees of Mason. That is not what they do and take you through in the lodge, if you've been through a lodge. Anybody that's been through knows that. Now, anybody that don't, then I can tell you just read the Duncan's Ritual or some book that somebody wrote on Masonry, and you think now you're quote-unquote a Masonic scholar, and you're not. You're just not. You understand? And I got no problem with that, but don't deceive the people. Tell the people you're teaching from a research perspective, not from a personal, and I got no problem with that. But how you're not going to talk in front of me who went through a Masonic lodge, and I got to hear you say something that's outlandish. Oh, when you get to the 33rd degree, you become Illuminati. Really? First of all, you can't become 33rd. You have to be asked to become a 33rd. You can't apply to 33rd. Anybody that goes up to Scottish in York, right? You become Scottish, 32nd. They use the term frozen. You're only asked to become a 33rd. You can't just go, hey, I want to become a 33rd degree Mason. That's not how it works. Anybody that talks other than that, they've never set foot in a Masonic lodge. And you have the choice to go either after the Blue House. You can go York Rite or Scottish Rite. That's your choice. You know that too. You understand? So let's keep it 100% real. Stop using that information and sensationalize it. And Jay-Z and Beyonce are part of the Illuminati. Stop it. Just
So what is the Illuminati?
What does the word Illuminati mean? Let's establish that first. Okay. Illuminati just means sons of the illuminating light. You can find Illuminati when you go back to real Illuminati, or the illuminated ones just meant a group of people that formed a sacred order and practiced certain rituals to get them to certain levels of consciousness. It had nothing to do with devil worship, satanic worship. You can go, I mentioned the Hashemite order and the Templars because they had some of those sacred teachings. Baphomet teachings tie into some of that. But all this, because you see Jay-Z doing this,
That's Rock Nation.
right, but I'm saying, you're right. That's just, but they'll sit there and say, oh, that's this Illuminati symbol. Then they'll go, yeah, I saw then the rappers in the video doing this, they're giving the satanic horn sign. But see, that's their version of Illuminati / Satanism that they want to program in your subconscious mind. I'm not talking about that. Because the illuminated ones, or the Illuminati, which you find, here's the thing I find interesting, and ask a religious person this, and they get baffled. In their very Bible, the word Lucifer, which means son of the morning, okay, which ties into Luciferians, or the Illuminati, and people don't even know what the word Luciferian means, okay, you have two quotes in your Bible that refer to Jesus as Lucifer, and refer to the so-called fictional character, the devil, as Lucifer. Ask a Christian this and watch them start buck dancing on you. Ask them, say, in the book of Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12, it refers to Lucifer as son of the morning star. It's right there, go read it. In Revelations chapter 22 verse 16, it refers to Jesus as son of the morning star. I'm confused. Now you got to explain to me, why does Jesus have the same title that the devil has in their very own holy book? I've gotten every answer. Nah, brother, you see, but no. I'm not asking for your opinion. You can give me your own personal opinion on it. I'm saying from a scriptural perspective. Why is your Jesus Christ referred to as the sun and morning star and the root of David in 22:16 Revelations, and Lucifer is referred to as the son of the morning star? I find that very funny. Or the very fictitious character deity of the Bible, or maybe they're one and the same. There is no difference between them when you really get down to the math. Maybe this very God they've been forcing you to worship for all these years is this actual also no different than this fictitious character they call the devil, or maybe they're just varying degrees of energy symbolically. That's all it is. See, nobody wants to hear that. Nah, bro, you see, you need to be saved. Saved from what? What you save me? What do you do when you save something? You save money and you put it in the bank and you wait to use it for a suitable purpose. So when a minister comes to me and tells me they want to save me, be careful in that deception. You understand? And then here's the other one. If you're not saved, you're going to hell. Where's hell? Where's hell? Somebody explain to me where hell. It's down there. Really? Down there? Where's down there? Oh, brother, it's down there. And here, and heaven's up there, right? Or is heaven and hell all around you? Or are they just states of mind? Or are they just mindsets? That's all it is. Because like I say, if I leave here, those people that were shot in Germany yesterday in that McDonald's, they were in a state of hell when that happened. That was hell for them. You understand? If you hit the lotto tomorrow, that's a state of heaven for you. And when you study the etymology of the words, the word heaven simply comes from a Greek word haven, a place of hiding or enclosure. That's all it means. The Greek word hell is Hades, below. That's all it means. They're symbolic. And when they wrote these stories, they would just to symbolically tell you what was going on inside of you on a daily basis. That's it. They were trying to tell you about your will and how you exercised your will and how you make decisions is going to determine the destiny that you lay out for yourself. So if I make bad decisions for myself, what's going to happen? Bad stuff's going to happen. If I go to a place where I know they're selling dope and there's shootouts, I got a good percentage of getting shot. That's just math. You understand? But if I make a decision and say, you know what, I'm not going to go hang out with that crowd, I'm going to stay away from that area, and I'm going to, do something productive in my house for myself. Now I'm changing my environment. At the end of the day, you are God. You're in control. You understand? But when you start accepting things outside of yourself, now we have a problem. You got to go back to 7 principles of Tahuti, which you cannot understand the 7 principles of Ma'at until you understand the 7 principles of Tahuti. Everybody talks about Ma'at. You need a Ma'at. Like Ma'at's a new religion now. It's the new religion in Egyptology. It's the physical manifestation of the spiritual law, the 7 principles of Tahuti. All is mental, mental is all. That's principle 1. There's no getting around that. Your mind creates universes and creates your reality, nothing else. The doctrine of polarity, the doctrine of gender. Why do we not study this? The doctrine of vibration, the doctrine of cause and effect, and the doctrine of gender, which is something most people can't deal with. It takes you beyond the physical aspect of gender back into the spiritual. Because a true person to work ancestral magic, spiritual magic, knows one, there is no such thing as good and bad. There is no such thing as right or wrong. And we understand what we're terming as spirits, gods, goddesses, demons. They're all just varying degrees of vibrational energy. It's how you tap into it, how you utilize it, and get it to work for you. That's it. Let's not spook it out. Demons are evil. Fabrication of the illusion of your mind. You say that because they've already established in your mind what a demon is. So when I hear demon is not evil to me, because I know prior to monotheistic religion what it really meant and what it really represented. I access demonic forces all the time. Not the demonic forces that you think, because you're thinking TV, Hollywood, Google, not that crap. Because that's all, I don't believe that there's such thing as a devil. I don't believe there's any devil that can harm me or do anything to me. That's all an illusion. Yeah, brother, the white man's, well, in your mind, brother. The more mental energy you give it, the more power you give to it. That's why I said earlier, I do not use the word white supremacy. In that root has word supreme. You're giving them power. And subconsciously, you're telling me where your mindset is at. So you can get on YouTube all you want and scream how you're going to bang on the cracker. You ain't doing nothing to the cracker. Trust me when I tell you. There's enough now out there. What are you waiting for? When you going to bring the war? And first of all, it shows me you're not a real warrior because you're getting on YouTube telling them what you're going to do to them. I would never get on YouTube telling somebody what I'm going to do to them. Come on. That's all entertainment to feed off your emotions.
But there is karmic energy based on to what, let's say, the white man has done to the planet.
Sure.
According to Dr. Francis
Wes Krausen, yep.
Yes. And CDC here in Atlanta, in the United States,
Right.
actually projects that by year 2050, about 50% of the white population will have skin cancer.
Well, they already do.
Excuse me?
They already do.
Right. And they're eventually dying.
Right.
And you see in Germany, the women with their own men, a lot of them are unable to populate.
Correct.
There's actually, they're missing, the key thing that they're missing is the mitochondrial DNA from a melanated being.
And we were talking about that
they
earlier.
actually have find a way,
Correct.
in order for them to be able to produce with themselves.
Correct.
They've actually had, they have to actually get the mitochondrial DNA from a melanated woman, either
Right.
from Africa or Arabs.
Because it's the oldest DNA, correct.
Essentially, in order for them to be able to produce themselves. So pretty much, yes, they've done quite a few things, but their karmic energy is actually
No doubt.
It's reaping.
No doubt. But also factor in this when we talk about stuff that atrocities that have also been done on the planet, and we got to look at the totality of it. Remember, you also have black people that sold black people in slavery.
Well, yeah,
and there's karmic depth. There's karmic depth for that.
Of course.
Let's not create the illusion. First, we got to establish. We all know we didn't come here through slavery. We know that. We all know that. There you go. Correct.
But,
so what I'm saying, I'm not denying. What you're saying is 100% correct.
Okay.
They have gone out of their way. That's what I'm saying. They would be part of that equation in the they, because they did have, and they do have, some of them to this day, an agenda.
Okay.
They do have an agenda, because they do believe they're entitled to rule. They do believe they're entitled to be in control. I don't. I say that because if we say we're gods, goddesses, kings and queens, and we were great, we need to start now acting like it. And being it.
Yeah, it's not even saying it's
right.
being it.
And I don't negate all of that history, and I know you came a little bit later. We were talking about that in the very beginning of the class. It's not negating the history of it. We know the atrocities they have done. It's a fact. It's on record.
Right.
We know slavery. We know all the wars and the destruction and death.
That is still happening.
And it's still happening now that they've caused on the planet.
Human population, Zika virus that are being created.
Right. But now, that sickness has spread to us because when we go into African countries now, we have African civil wars everywhere.
Of course, and that's actually one. That's actually one thing that Westerners actually have done into Africa.
Correct.
To go in and create those civil wars, so they can actually get control of the resources that are there, especially when it comes to like the coltan, the diamond mines, and the petroleums and things of that nature.
And this is right. And this is why now.
And creating the
correct.
And keeping that place into chaos.
Right. And this is why now we got to stop now, giving them the power of it and the energy and make the change. Because Liberia, Nigeria, Sudan's now back at civil war as we speak. They're North and South going back at it again. So the whole problem is this has been, it's all mental. It's an infectious mindset. So it's as simple as us saying step one. Now we're being, like you say, we're being influenced. And again, even though Red Cross and European governments and our government has gone into a lot of these places and infiltrated, but we also now have black folks helping them. And we need to address all of this as a totality.
Yes, they need to be killed.
That's right. So we need to, what I'm saying is this, we need to all now take responsibility. We can't keep sitting around talking about, like I said, before you showed up, we were talking about people, what happens to us is now we're stuck in the back in the day mode and playing the victim. It's enough. We got enough of history now to move forward is what I'm trying to say. So long story short, we need solutions. And like you were saying earlier, Sonia, I'm going to go back and watch that video. Something that Professor James Small brought up, it does come with us uniting together in secret and performing our rituals. And if Professor James Small is going to initiate that, I'm all for that. Because we can change the energy and there's nothing they can do to stop that. But when we go out there making ourselves marks and targets and we want to protest and join Black Lives Matter, we're playing right into their hands. Because now, as I said, they're getting ready to pass that law to declare them a terrorist group. So now it means if you gather, they don't need no justification to shoot you no more. All they got to do is tell you, look, we're telling you need to move. Or you don't want to move? Bam, 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 bam. What you going to do? What you going to do? Protest? You going to get Reverend Al Sharpton and them to come down and do another "We Shall Overcome" march that absolutely does nothing?
I don't think you'll get to that stage.
We're not.
It's not because that they're actually needing or caring about what happens to us, but what they do care about is their global reputation.
Correct.
And with the age of technology, these things will be videotaped globally, and in order for them to maintain America to maintain itself as supreme ruler of the world, is look at how you're treating your population.
But it won't happen. It won't happen unless we keep reacting. We're reacting right into their hands right now.
Well, yeah, you by going out and protest, actually, it gives you.
We're playing into their hands, because let me tell you what they did with the dude. The other thing they did with this dude Cosmo, the dude from Baton Rouge. Now, he made a video, as everybody saw, right, which I thought was ironic. I watched some of his videos. I watched about 7 or 8 of them. He was a little bit out there. I sensed he had a lot of hostility in him, a lot of anger, and I understood why. He posted one of his last videos where he made it clear that he wasn't affiliated with nothing or anybody. Okay, everybody saw that. Everybody saw the clips. But let me tell you how they set you up. He's gone. He can't speak for himself now. Okay? And I'm not saying what he did was right, so I want to be clear on that. I'm not justifying what he did was right. They dug into his past a little bit, and now they said he was affiliated. They saw some dealings he had with the Washita Moors and Empress Verdiachi out in Louisiana. So now they're classifying the Washita Moors as a hate group. Go pull it up. They're saying he was connected with them, and he was part of a separatist movement called the Washita Moors under Empress Verdiachi in Louisiana. When he made a video clearly stating he is clearly not associated, affiliated, exclusively with anything, any organization, he said, I want to make that clear. Say it again? The guy that did the police shooting in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They're linking him into the Washita Moors. Why is that important? What they're trying to do right now, any conscious movement that you publicly associate yourself with, be it Egyptian, Moorish, they're trying to put that under the umbrella as a hate group. That's why I said if we're not careful, we're going to play right into their hands. You understand? So what's happening now is the time for us to stop separating, dividing, and arguing. The stuff on the internet now, having debates, that's got to stop. We're past that now. Now we got to show them that this is a unified movement. It's not about all that. Because the Black Hebrewites attacking the conscious community attacking the Moors. Chaos and confusion. We got to stop. So now what they're going to do is if they see any black person wearing Egyptian symbols or any type of level of consciousness, they're trying to instill in the subconscious mind of the public, you're part of some black separatist group. You're part of some hate movement. To the point where you can't even express your culture anymore. That's what the New World Order is about. They're going to say, see, we need to bring in martial law. We got to bring it in. They can't govern themselves.
So they've lost the programming from that person.
Correct.
You're out of the program, so you need to be,
Correct. So we have to be careful we don't allow it to happen. The problem is we're going to have that small group amongst us that is going to be so reactionary and they're going to be so volatile that, like Micah Johnson and this brother, that they took it upon themselves to react. And at the end of the day, I don't care if you agree with it or you don't, that didn't accomplish anything. It made matters worse. Okay? Because killing 4 or 5 cops, and it ruined the agenda because you said your target was white folks and mainly white cops, but in those 2 shootings, 2 black cops got killed. Now let's factor this in, whether you like it or not. Let's be real. Not every single cop is corrupt like that. If you believe that, you're stupid. Am I saying there's not bad? Of course there's bad cops. I've been experienced, when I got pulled over by Georgia, being you're a Yankee, you understand? I went through the whole racial profiling thing. If you're not fit their standards of what they classify as white. You could be Mexican, Puerto Rican, anything that's non-white in their eyes. Anybody that's experienced police, 97, I experienced it. Held me up, couldn't find nothing, busted taillight. We're trying to, this is what they told me. I got stopped with another brother. You fit the description of somebody that robbed a convenience store, and you fit the description of somebody that just committed a rape. This is what we were told at the stop, 1997, begins with a C, Coweta County. I don't know. Anyway, somewhere in Georgia. Never forget this. So I simply asked the question. So this rapist and this person that robbed the store, they're hanging out together? Like, I'm kind of confused. They kept us there for damn near under 2 hours. Wanted to search. Can we search? I said, you can search the car if we could watch. He didn't like that. Because I know the right is, if you don't let me watch, then you got to get a warrant. And we might have been there till the next morning. And you can't take me in and arrest me and process me for nothing because you got nothing to take me in on. So I simply asked, one, what do you want to search my car for? And two, if you do search my car, I would like to stand by you side by side and watch. Well, is there some reason? Look, I said, officer, simply I know the law. If you don't have a warrant, you can't search my car. I'm giving you the right to search my car. Consent with me watching, no problem. Long story short, he agreed to it. As usual, couldn't find nothing. Sat us back in the car. Then wanted to get me and say, which I found it hard to believe, that my right blinker, when I put it on, he wanted to show me that the right blinker was not as illuminated as the left one. So I had an inoperable right turn signal. This is what he held us up for an hour and 45 minutes. Right? And then this bugged me out, which I didn't know you could do in the state of Georgia in those counties. He wanted me to pay the ticket right there on the spot. I didn't know you could do that in some spots. It bugged me out. He's like, you want to pay that now? So I'm like looking at is this some kind of setup? Like, who pays a ticket at the time to get it right then and there? Well, I found out that part was true after I researched it. In certain parts of Georgia, you can pay the ticket right there when you get pulled over, in cash. I don't know if anybody knew that. Go look it up. Long story short, do I believe all cops are bad? I don't give a crap if nobody likes them. No, they're not, because I know some cops that are not bad. Do I believe that?
Both of us wouldn't be here.
Thank you.
We would be dead or,
So we got to get out of this frame of mind. Some of those cops that were black that got killed, they had wives, they had children, they had families. So don't sit there and think that was a righteous deed when in that process, the very mission you said you set out to accomplish, you failed because you killed some of your own in that process. So that's it. You can get here and get into the debate. It's a waste of time. It's all nonsense. But anyway, we got about 10 more minutes. Anybody have any more questions?
I'm going back today. We're talking about the physical. What about that spiritual and magic part that these white people have that put us under the spell?
Okay, first understand this. White magic has no precedence over black magic.
So why the control? I mean, why the other?
That's what we need to be asking ourselves as a collective.
That's what we
now, but ask yourself this. It first starts with you. See, when you ask me that question, I got to first start in my universe. See, they don't control any aspect of me. You may not understand that because you're looking from an external aspect. I'm not saying you do or you don't.
I'm looking for the other.
I can only first and foremost, to start a collective change, I have to start with an individual change. I know the way I'm moving now, how I want to move, when and how. I have control over that. Yeah, I know I do.
Understand
that part.
Now, you made a statement before that.
Good.
McDonald's have a yellow and you feel hungry.
Right.
So they control that mind of who don't know that.
Right, because and I made that statement because I'm not saying I can drive by McDonald's at 11:30 at night and I get disgusted by it because the smell. I'm saying I meant that statement. The average person that may quote unquote may not be fully conscious. I'm not talking about us in here.
So they're using
Of course. So our job. That's right. Right. So our job is we got to educate. That's why I also said, I think you weren't here when I said that at the time. Our job is to give us individuals the information, and how they utilize it is up to them. Now, is everybody going to utilize it the right way? No, this is why I said it's not a black and white thing, because you got black people that are susceptible to that, and you got white folks that are. Let's not act like every white person is part of the greater scheme of things. There's white people that are being used and abused, and they're part of that.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, we don't want to use the word Illuminati, but just
correct.
I'm talking about certain people that control
1%.
like you talk about the bloodline,
right?
That control the mind of people.
Well, think of this.
White people.
No, right.
Well, if I can say something to that, you have to look at who's actually controlling of all of the content that you are seeing. Your television, that is programming right there. The psychological warfare is a real thing. I mean, having the one of the main reasons that we have been so programmed, going through slavery and the 300 years of dehumanizing and removing all aspect of whatever which you were, and giving you an identity, providing you their last name as far as from the plantation that you're from, and giving you an identity, and then eventually saying that written in the Pacific, you are now free, and then the children of these enslaved producing the same type of mental slavery children, because that's what they've gotten from their plantation. They were brainwashed, and so that this is why we're under spell, and they're still controlling all of the television, all of the news media that you're bombarded.
Let me say this real quick. Let me say this real quick. Yahuda. Right. Let me say this though. Let me real quick. Right. But let me say this. The change starts. It's as simple as this though. As she's dropping information and educating, the change comes as simple as this. The fact is, you're conscious of it. You recognize that fact.
Right.
Okay. Now, this is what we can't negate. That's why I said it first starts with an individual change before a collective change. So what I'm saying is, we'll use the McDonald's thing as an example, how they can feed off your emotions,
Right.
use symbols and media and tools of indoctrination and everything that she said.
Walmart.
Now, if I pull you aside and I educate you on that, you're now aware. You can't say you don't know.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So from that point forward,
You assist them in waking up.
you're right. You don't have the excuse no more. So if a person,
We learn all these things. That's
Huh?
what I'm
But it's
saying.
psychiatry. That's
right.
all it is.
So,
Understand how the mind
but this is what I'm
works.
saying. In this day and time, right. In this day and time, with all the information and all the technology, we don't have an excuse no more. There is no more hidden agenda. Everything that was hidden has now come to the surface. Nobody can say they don't know anymore. So what I'm saying is, if we're sitting here talking to them, we know how they've manipulated politics and economics, spirituality and religion. We all know that. So the change starts from step one. I'm not going into their churches anymore. I'm not attending their masjids no more. I'm not supporting their political parties no more. That's it. But what I'm saying is, the only thing we can do is educate the ones that don't know. But from that point forward, if you are now conscious of this and you say, I don't care, I'm still going to eat McDonald's every day, I'm still going to hang out in clubs and do it, then that's on you. But we do, hold on, we do have to understand this, Yahuda. And I'm saying this, I'm not saying you're thinking this, but I want to address this because if we think we're going to get up one day and there's going to be this great black utopia where we're all holding hands, kumbaya, and we're on the same page, it's not going to happen. Let's understand, in this war, there will be black folks that will be casualty. Do not confuse the illusion. It'll never get to the point where we all will be united. Anybody that teaches that doctrine, you need to get far away from it as you can. I know it, we want it to be like that, but there will always be those who assist the mind of these mental slave masters. And they're going to get to the point in this war where we got to just toss them to the side. I'm not interested no more in...
You saying that is, do you have a driver's license?
Say it again?
Do you have a driver's license?
Of course I have a driver's license. Right.
So why you have a driver's license?
Because I live in a state that requires the law for me to
Who
drive.
require those things?
Say it again?
Who require those things?
Well, we can get into federal and state
That's
law.
what I'm saying. Day, we come back to the day.
Right.
So
But hold on. But let's
establish
establish.
knowledge to have us under the spell that we need a driver's license. That we
Right, but that's on the objective realm, right? Now, in order to change and affect the objective realm, the only way we're going to change that is by going into our subjective and being able to manipulate the objective realm. Now, the only way we can change that is if we got into those positions of power and we started to make the laws.
Right. That's what
Okay.
I'm saying. Yep.
Now, keep this in mind, though. Let's back up. We know the original founding fathers, when we go back to John Hanson, under the Articles of Confederation, a lot of these laws that we're following now, Iroquois, because remember, our Constitution is grafted right after the Iroquois Constitution. A lot of the laws we claiming now that we're following that govern our constitutional rights were established by Melanite people. Don't get it twisted. They've just used this and laid claim to it. Democracy was not something founded by them. The first president of this country, you know, was a black man under the Articles of Confederation that they've been denying for years.
Still come back to the reasoning. Oh, they got that power. That's
It's real simple.
They took away that power from the black
Real
people.
simple. How they got that power. There's always a coon somewhere to be found in a group. Here's how they got that power. Look, if I come over to you and I come over to your land, right? And I say, I create dissension, and I say, look, come on with me to this ship, follow me here, I'm going to create a greater opportunity for you, right? And then once you open the door to let me in, I can now captivate you against your will, take you in the ships. But what the question that goes even deeper than that, like you said, slavery existed, correct? They got into power because they simply forced their way into power. They basically took what they felt like taking. Let's not make this mystical. And then how they did it was, which we don't want to do, because we on this vibe like, I don't want nothing to do. They got into the system and infiltrated it. See, if we want to change the educational system, what do we all need to do? We need to get up into the universities, and if we get the majority up in there, we can change some of the programs that they're teaching. Some of that is happening on small levels. I'm not going to say it's not. If we want to change the economic institution, then we need to start opening our own banks. Let's go back to Black Wall Street. You know how that's powerful? When we got the economic power, what did they do? They came in there and slaughtered everybody. The only way it's going to happen is realistically, and it's not just going to happen on one level, when dealing with military, economics, finances, and spirituality. The problem why they're still in power and why they do rules, nobody's coming with a blueprint or a plan. It's deeper than just, we're going to bang on the cracker, we're going to war. I can get on YouTube, what's his name does that all the time. It's comical to me, SETI. It's comical. The dude's an entertainer, okay? And the dude even had me on one of his videos and put me up there one time. Didn't know who I was when he was trying to attack the Nubians. It was hilarious.
I remember that.
He had me up there because he was talking about how Dr. York's he put a bunch of Latino people up there saying that they were white, and how Dr. York lets white people in his group. And you don't even know who I am. How you gonna put my picture up there and you don't even know who I am? You understand? But anyway, long story short is, dudes like that are entertainers. I'm gonna get you, sis. I see you. They're entertainers. Do you really think that holds any weight, getting up on YouTube and screaming and hollering about what you're going to do to white folks? That's nonsense.
Interest.
Uh-huh.
Would you say what you're saying is synonymous with Marcus Garvey's teaching?
Yes, because Marcus Garvey had it figured out on a realistic level. Now, Noble drew Ali to an extent, but he got a little more caught up in religion. But Marcus Garvey had a plan. He had an economic plan. He had we need to govern ourselves. That's why he was a threat, because he said, look, we're not trying to attack you or eliminate you. What we are asking is, let us govern ourselves. We don't need you to do that for us. That's it. And that's what we need to do. And it's going to get to that point. And that's the great change that's coming. But the problem is, intellectually, we're not going to have everybody that's going to be capable to be on board with that. That's what I'm saying. That's what's going to bring what you're seeing now is the people rising up because they want to govern themselves. That's what we need to be focusing on, is what I'm saying. To negate what you're talking about, because if we don't govern ourselves, create our own economic systems, look, what I'm saying is, and what everybody that said before us says, look, they can have their stuff, but we want our land, we want to govern ourselves, we want to educate our own children. Mm-hmm. And all we're saying is, give us the rightful resources. They're either going to give it to us, or guess what happened? The revolution will rise and people will start taking stuff. That's the reality. Now, let's not negate the fact, if you want change in rulership, sometimes war is necessary. Mm-hmm. Let's be real.
Don't you think that's what Farrakhan is speaking about? No.
I don't have one thing I've always respected Farrakhan for, when it comes to politics, when it comes to addressing current issues, the man knows what he's talking about. The problem I got is when he starts talking all that, law's going to open the skies, and let's not bring the law of God and Jesus into it. That's the problem I got.
So you said taking the war to war. Who's going to start the war? Black people versus white?
No, because you're going to find out in this revolution, when you can go back towards the civil rights movement, you're going to find there's always been all races that have been down with a cause. Okay? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that all white people are bad. I don't believe that. I used to believe that at one point in my ideology, because there's always been, and you can get into your theories, they were implanted. There's always been Latinos, whites, Asians, to some extent on the front line for any cause that they felt was unjust against humanity. That's a reality. Go do the research. Okay? That's my opinion. Now, you don't have to agree with that. I'm telling you, in the cause, there's never going to be, look, like I said 20 minutes ago, if you think you're going to wake up one day and we're going to be living in a black utopia, it's not going to happen. And I simply say to people this, then you got the other people, go back to Africa movement. Really? I said, well, tell you what, brother, how can I help you buy that ticket so you can leave for Africa tomorrow? And I'm going to tell you why I'm saying that. Africa's in worse disarray than here is. If you're thinking here's in bad shape, let's paint two pictures here. There's some parts of Africa that are more technologically advanced than the United States. So not everywhere in Africa is nature and in tune with animals and running through the wilderness. That's an illusion. Then there's other parts of Africa. Do you know in Liberia, as we sit here right now, there's civil war amongst those tribes and they practice cannibalism. So do we think that we're going to get off a plane and I'm wearing my dashiki, I'm here? Some of us wouldn't last 2 weeks in Africa because we don't line up with the agenda they're doing. What we're talking about here right now tonight, we would be killed and beheaded. We couldn't talk about this in Africa because most of those parts of Africa have been infiltrated by Christianity and various forms of Islam. Nigeria is controlled by Arabs now. Sudan has been controlled by Arabs. Liberia is controlled by a mixture of... They're more fanatical Christian in Liberia than they are here in the United States of America. Ghana, some parts can be as technologically advanced and some can be in drugs. The bottom line is this. They will not accept any of us over in Africa if we're not bringing a financial plan. That's the bottom line. So everybody thinks we're going to go back to Africa, putting on our cultural attire, and they're going to embrace us. Anybody that knows anything, and I can tell you this from teaching on the streets of New York for years, Africans can't stand American black people. They hate us. When you teach anything, they laugh at you. Arabs used to laugh at me when I was a Muslim. And they're like, you ain't no Muslim, you're an American convert. They look you as somebody trying to imitate their way of life or their culture. Now, if you're going to Africa, like they got programs in Ghana right now, if you come in there that you're trying to bring a business, you got to have a plan. You can't just get off Africa and find an apartment or a house and go get a job. They look at you as taking from the very little that they got. And there's different laws there. The judicial system, you want to go to prison? Go to a prison in Africa, Brazil, a country you think is bad here. We got to stop painting this illusion. And I say this to all the Go Back to Africa movement. I'll get you a ticket right now. Because we can eliminate them and then we're down. We can start narrowing down the mindsets. Anybody wants assistance going back to Africa, come see me. I'll help you get out of here. Because now I got one less problem I need to worry about. You're gone, go. I guarantee. Look at Mos Def, begging to get back in the country right now, and they won't let him back in. Mos Def got sucked into the Black Utopia thing. I love the brother. I actually met him. I love the brother. Conscious. I love his music. What's he calling himself now? His African name. He got sucked into the motherland, and I'm going to go back to Africa, and he thought that was going to be the solution to his problems. Let's stop acting like there's no problems over there. We're not going to leave here and think we're going to escape our problems as if it's any better over there.
So what about the minerals and wealth in Africa?
Okay, if you left today, I would simply say this to you. It's not all of Africa has wealth and minerals. Yes, there are plenty of parts that do. We know where the oil wells, the diamond wells, the mine, and the gold is. But who's in control of that right now?
Right, well, we got to get rid of them.
Right. Okay, but I'm asking you, we got to deal with reality. You right now, say if you got up tomorrow morning and say, you know what, I'm tired of America, I'm getting out of here, I'm going to Africa.
But that's my old point through my old asking that one question. Mm-hmm. They control everything.
But when I'm saying, when you say, right, that was, see, but Yahuda, see, I gotten to the point, see, Yahuda, yeah, that's right, Yahuda, I've gotten to this point. No, but Yahuda, I've gotten to this point. I've got to take care of self first. I don't say that on a greedy level. See, if you think this is a mission about saving black people, you're gonna get lost in the struggle. This is not about saving black people. I don't care if people can misinterpret that wrong. Yeah, this is about rising. First and foremost, if you can't save yourself, you can't save nobody else.
But what are you saving yourself from?
From all the stuff you're talking about. Let me give you an example. So if I can move, hold on. If I can move in their objective realm, let me give you an example. I don't like to talk about personal experiences because, let me give you an example. I got to deal with the objective realm first because I need to survive. You understand? I need to survive, right? You need to eat every day, correct?
Yeah.
Yahuda, you need to eat every day. Right. Let me give you an example. When I was caught up in all that mentality, the race thing, it's about saving folks, and I was out there, and I used to catch hell for it. Look at me. I never fit the criteria. When you're of multiple different backgrounds, you're not black enough, you're too light, you're not this. I dealt with all that, and I'm on the front line condemning white folks. I get confused for everything other than that. Are you white? You Spanish? You Arab? What are you? So I saw both sides of the fence. But you know what I realized when things changed for me? When I left all that shit alone. Let me tell you why. Real simple. You know the stuff I was caught up in for over 20 plus years. Right? I got to a point when the land was almost taken over. I can say this on camera now. I got into a carload, brothers, loaded with guns and rifles and ammunition. 5 of us got in the car. We drove up to you. I don't know if you were there. We drove up to the land, ready to die, go to war, because I thought that was the solution. We got so psycho, we took the charcoal from the incense and painted our faces black. Never forget this. Got the car. I was one of the first brothers to get in the car. Cars loaded. We didn't get pulled over when we got, thank God, because I think about it, we got pulled over. I may not be here. Whole point is, cars loaded with rifles, guns, all types of guns, ammunition. We were ready to just blaze through the pylon and start shooting. Whatever happened, happened. And I realize as I reflect back on that now, what that does is take people to the slaughter. But I was caught up in that mentality at the time because I believed that's what I needed to do. Now here's how things changed. I'm going to say this the right way without, I don't want to sound spooky, and I don't want to get into my personal experience because it's personal. If I need a car, I need anything physical, it's easy for me to get it now. Let me give you an example. We have to survive on the objective realm first. When I was caught up in that nonsense, I couldn't even get one house. Now I have 4 houses. You understand? Getting ready to buy another one now and rent the one that I live in now. I have a house in Jamaica. I got a house in Fort Myers. I got a house here. And we're getting ready to buy a 4th one. You understand? Cars, I drive that one. I got 2 others sitting at the house. Me and the wife. I'm not measuring physical stuff based on success, but I'm saying what tends to happen is we get caught up. That mentality creates a broke mentality. Most spiritual people are broke as hell. And what I'm saying is you can't fight a war without finances. So we're sitting there talking about we want to make a change and we can't even reach into our pocket to buy a hot sandwich. I'm speaking in general. I'm not talking about us here. I realized that I was broke as hell. I didn't have nothing. And if you're going to sit there and tell me that physical things, when you're living a physical existence, is not important, you're spooked out. If you're telling me having a nice house, you know what cures 90% of our problems? A consistent income. We don't want to accept that. I'm not working for the white man. If you notice, most people that are bitter, most people that complain and are victims and play the slave mentality, victim role, they ain't got a pot to piss in. And they're mad because they broke, their lives are in disarray, their family lives are a mess, their financial lives are a mess, their personal lives are a mess. That's part of that indoctrination. They don't want to teach you to better yourself. So if we change that, step 1, yourself, and then we show others how to do it. I can show people how to do it. I couldn't do that 10, 15 years ago because I was so caught up being a revolutionary. You understand? And it's as easy as getting into your subjective realm and making things move for you. Do you understand what I'm getting at? You understand? This is what we have to start focusing on. So, here, let me give you an example. There's a way we can stop police brutality, real simple. And I'm glad you bring up the Professor James Small ritual. If we went and got together as a collective and created our own personal ritual mentally, where we visualized how we wanted this to stop, I don't got to get into detail, and I know what they're going to do, we can put a stop to this real easy. Because remember, every problem has its root spiritually before it does physically. The problem, too, is we're attacking everything on the physical level. We're not addressing it. There's a certain energy and power, as you said, that they're tapping into, that they're able to indoctrinate the masses and send this energy out. Did you hear the last cop? Let me show you why I'm saying that's confirmation. Everybody saw the Miami shooting that just happened a couple of days ago, right? The guy that was taking care of the autistic adult that he was caring for, he was laying on the ground. He said, look, I got my hands up, right? He's got a toy truck in his hand. It's not a gun. Cop still shot him. To show you that this is now affecting everyone. What did he say anyway? He said, I asked the cop, why you shot me? What did the cop tell him? I don't know.
He was so programmed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're messed up now because now not only is that fear, not only are they trying to instill that fear in us, they're also part of the plan, the lesser, because what they're trying to do is exactly say, look, we need to bring in martial law. The police is out of. You mark my words, I told you this here tonight. They're going to start within the next year to get rid of to get local police everywhere. There's only going to be state police and federal police. You mark my words, you heard me say it here tonight. Texas has already begun the process. They will be the first state. Okay? What I'm trying to tell you is we got to look at this thing in totality. There's a lesser class of white folks that are in the same boat as us. Let's not pretend. There's trailer park white bottom feeders that they're part of the experiment too. And they're being utilized for the same reasons. We're getting caught up in one aspect of this whole situation, the slavery thing. As we're sitting back complaining all the time about what was done to us wrong, and it was done, I'm not saying it wasn't, we're not making any change in movements. So they're saying, look at them, that's cool, let them complain. Yeah, let them have their little protest. You saw what happened when they gathered the Baltimore protest. That was the beginning of this. Now, how come nobody has gone off the deep end about the black officers that got acquitted in the Freddie Gray case? Nobody's saying nothing about that. Is it about police brutality? Because the one black officer was one of the main culprits that they said was slamming his head into the thing inside the truck. And nobody's speaking out on that. So are we saying, I got a problem with this. Are we saying if a black cop commits police brutality, that is acceptable?
No. That's why we're not sad that those two were killed either.
Right.
It's the I'm sorry to say like
No, I'm not talking about the ones that were killed. In the Freddie Gray case,
but
you had two that were acquitted, but I didn't hear nobody protesting their acquittal.
Well, it's pretty much, it's the whole police department, the blue lives. Once you wear that costume as blue light, your nationality, your race, all of that is out the door. You become blue, and you become part of that institution that actually come and
Right, but what I'm saying is, as quick as they were people, how come nobody, when those guys came out of that hearing and were acquitted, I didn't see any Black Lives Matter movement. I didn't see any protesters.
They weren't taught to say that, man.
Right?
Everything is a react. They tell us what to say.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
How to react.
This is what I'm saying. But we're not realizing we're picking and choosing what we're reacting to, is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I understand that whole thing with the blue lives, if you wear that uniform, this and that, whatever. But my whole point is, those black cops were just as guilty as those white cops for killing that young black brother and assisting in his death. And there was also a Latina cop, a female. She's just as guilty too, because they were all part of it. But what I'm saying is, I'm only bringing that up as an example to show you how people are programmed, like you said, to react. They're choosing for us what to react to. Because if we were really down about the cause, I would have been there just as hard protesting about them two black cops getting acquitted.
Exactly.
Because they shouldn't get a pass. Because they were part, and they're working with that system. That's why I said in the very beginning, when I say they, you have all people that work in that system. Black, white, Asian, Latino. We got to stop making this exclusively a black and white thing, because we're going to get lost in the shuffle. Here, let me give you an example. There's a movie they just put out now to tell you symbolically what's getting ready to happen. Anybody see Purge election year? Purge, the third series of the Purge movies. Go see it. Now I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you that. You mark my words. In the first two Purges, who was obsolete from the Purge? What group of people in the first two Purge? Anybody see the first two Purge movies? Raise your hand. All right. Who was untouchable in the first two Purge movies? What group? The politicians. Yeah. In the third movie, this one, the politicians are game. That's why the movie's called Purge Election Year. Let me tell y'all something. Obama, even though he'd be leaving office, he would still be there. Obama's going after all of them. All these corrupt politicians, their gig is up. He's about to take all of them out. This is why Hillary will win the election, but he'll be behind the scenes calling a lot of shots. This man is not who you think he is. And I'm not saying he's any savior. That's not what I'm saying. Because all the ones that are saying, oh, he's part of... Trust me, there's a bigger picture than this. Wait till you see what he's getting ready to do with the gun control law. Wait till you get ready to see what he's going to do with a lot of these corrupt lawyers. This movie did not come out for a reason at this time, right during the election. Go watch the movie. They're going to get ready to show you what they're getting ready to do. Because this is the only one where the politicians now can be purged. In the first two, they were untouchable. They're getting ready to show you how they're going to overthrow everything and bring about this drastic change. And it's going to start with the police force. That's why you're seeing everything that's happening in the last year and a half, 2 years. It starts with law enforcement and law and authority. What I'm trying to say, if you look at the bigger picture and don't get caught up in the emotional thing, it's not a race thing. Trust me when I tell you. They're creating the illusion it is, because of course if I show black people getting shot, who's that going to affect? Black people. So if I start a race war, that opening the doorway to bring in martial law. And anybody that reads, and martial law's got 57 different precepts to it. Sit down and read it. It's got 57 different precepts to it. Oh no, 157, I'm sorry. Sit down and read it. Most people don't even know what martial law really is. What I'm trying to tell you, y'all need to look at this big picture they're getting ready to bomb down on us. They create the illusion. The ISIS plays a puppet in this whole thing. Religion and race is used as the illusion and the veil to hide behind what they really want to accomplish. Let me ask y'all a question. Be real. And I know there'll be some righteous person that'll go, no, not me. If you were laying dead on the side of the road, down to your last breath, would you really give two flying craps who stopped and revived you? If it was a white man, would you go, white man, don't help me, you're white, I don't want you helping me? You can say, I know some people will go, no, I'd rather die. Okay. I'll believe that when you're in your near-death experience. It's easy to say that now. When this comes down to the essence of it, if you got shot, if you needed to be revived, saved, you wouldn't care who did it for you. Hey, look, I'm not saying we got to like and love each other. What I am saying is, look, I'm not saying I love white folks. I am saying if you respect me, I respect you, and we got a common ground, let's move forward. Am I going to want to hang out with you and get to know you and be buddy-buddy? Hell no. But what I am saying is, look, you serve a purpose, I serve a purpose. Let me utilize you what I can for, utilize me, just don't cross that line. That's it. But we get in this thing. First of all, I ask all these revolutionary cats this. If there's going to be this race war right now, I just saw a recent video. I don't know who it was. An inevitable race war coming. I laughed my ass off when I watched it. Really?
That was silly.
Was that? Okay. I laughed my ass off when I watched it. I said, okay, really? Now, if we had a meeting in secret, we're in the meeting right now. Let me paint a picture for you. All right, let's tally up what kind of weapons we got for this war. How many tanks we got? How many nuclear missiles we got? How many biochemical warfare? We don't have any of that? So what do you think this war is really about? So you're going to go to war? You're basically sending me with a butter knife. You're sending me to war with a butter knife. That's what you're sending me to war to. So I'm saying, what is your strategy for a man that can come in here, right? Man, they could take one army tank and wipe out. What neighborhood is this? What town is this? They could take one army tank and wipe Miami Gardens out in 20 minutes. So my question to all these warriors would be, what is your plan for that? If we're going to go to war, I'm saying, just as quick as it's easy to ask, well, how do we bring about the change and how do they get in control? So the militant cats, what's the plan? So you mean to tell me, you basically want to set me on the front line and send me to slaughter, is basically what you're telling me. That's what you're telling me. That's not realistic, man. Professor James Small, that thing you said, let's get real. I'm gonna leave you on this note. I'm gonna finish with this. We're gonna wrap it up. If we start gathering and get ourselves together in secret and performing these rituals in unison, our own rituals that we create, nobody else's stuff. I'm not talking anything that's written in a book. We all get together with our own experiences and create our own stuff.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
We can bring about this change. We can bring about this change. Look, let's use mantras for it. You know how powerful mantras are? The vibrational energy it carries. If we got together, if we had 1 million man mantra gathering and started chanting different vibrational frequencies of tones of our ancestors, do you know the power that would bring? There's nothing they can do to combat that. They ain't no law, bill, or nothing. It would change the energy. Shit, I guarantee if 1 million drummers gathered in DC, they'd break that shit up real quick. Because I told you why that was going on. They had National Guard 3 blocks away ready to come in for a riot. And to me, that's not a smart leader that's going to gather 1 million, well, we know it wasn't 1 million, to gather a large group. That's like bringing the sheep to the slaughter. Do you know they could have just flew a plane right over us, boom, and just took everybody out? We think we're making a big statement. We're in DC, we shall overcome, we want change. I was laughing at that crap. I was like, look at them, sheeples. Look at all the sheeples in the slaughter. And they were watching, and the only thing they were watching for, if they had any viable cause to go in there and kill some people. Because go do the research. Why that last gathering was going on 3 blocks, they had National Guard, state police, military police ready to come in case there was a riot.
See, a lot of these cats, they go off emotions.
That's what I'm saying.
Because if you really sat down and think about what they were going to do, they know the military don't necessarily have to send a physical soldier to do any harm. You just sit in a cubicle and send your drone.
Drone, there you go.
And just they could wipe out 10,000.
And you would never knew where that drone came from.
Exactly. So they're not thinking, man.
That's why I'm saying we got to look at
warriors don't think like that.
No. And a warrior's not going to get on YouTube and rant and holler about what he's going to do to the white man. I find that entertaining. I literally put popcorn in the microwave. I get me something to drink. I sit down and watch these guys. It's like it's better than TV. I watch all the stage. You know, they're entertainers, man. They want to get up there. It's comical to me. I'm like, really? You're on YouTube, the white man's platform, telling the white man what you're going to do to him. Really? And there's people buying into this? I use social media just to get information out there. That's it. I'm not going to be on here. First of all, like you said, a real warrior moves in silence. I'm not going to tell you anything.
I don't know what Facebook look like, or Twitter.
Well, I canceled my Facebook account. I stopped. The idiocy on Facebook, the emails I would get,
I don't know what the hell that is.
I can't deal with that. Kill it.
I just want to ask a question, right?
Uh-huh.
When we deal with the laws of Tahuti,
Right.
you got duality, gender,
Correct.
polarity, all of that, right?
Correct.
We all know at one point, because we all use this terminology as we were asleep. Now we are waking, or we are becoming woke, right? People are waking up. So when you have questions like, how did the white man do this, and how did this do that, and why is that not a part of this matrix?
Say that last part again. I'm sorry, I got distracted.
I'm just saying, right? We living in a to me, we living in. This is how it's supposed to be to me.
Right.
You got duality, so you got good and bad. You say it ain't no such thing as good and bad, but we see people perpetuate good and bad every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got two different races, or human beings that look different. One, you can sit there and say, oh, these people destroy the planet, they do this, they do this. Then you can look at the other race and be like, oh, these people are nurturing, these people are this, duality.
Correct.
Laws of Tahuti.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So then you got this certain group of people that once ruled, then went to sleep, and now are awakening. And you got these one group of people that were once cavemen and this, that, and the third, now they ruling.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that not a part of what's supposed to be going on?
Let me tell you, I'm glad you tap into that. See, now you're getting to where I'm going. Here.
I know that. That's why I said.
Look at this.
That's why I said what I'm saying. Because it's like we talking about all this emotional,
right? To show
physical
you,
shit.
To show you what you're saying is 100% accurate. Let me give you an example. Take the person that claims to be peaceful, about unity and love. All right, let's establish. We got a lot of these conscious. I call them light-siders. We need to become one with the universe. We need to unite. Black power. Okay, cool. Now what I'm about to say, you're probably not you. I'm saying maybe people listening, watching. You're not gonna like what I'm about to say. It's always been about step one, self-preservation is the law, number one law in the universe. What do you get up every day for? Everybody in this room, do not lie to yourself. You get up every day with the hopes of bettering yourself to become the best you can be. If you say otherwise, you're full of it. You go to earn money because you want to be the best you can be. You go to, obtain physical things such as a house, a car, etc. because you want to be the best you can be. And don't get spiritually spooked on me and go, no, see, you're supposed to live in the world, not of it. See, that's the broke spiritual mentality. Somehow we've equated being broke with being spiritual. That's the problem here, okay? Now the law is this. If I put us all in a room right now and we only had 2 sandwiches, and that was the last 2 sandwiches on the planet, what do you think is going to happen? Do not, please, let me tell you something. If you think we're going to cut that up and divide it and it's going to be peaceful and loving, when it all said and done, when it comes down to it at the end of the day, it's about self-preservation. I don't care what anybody tells you. They can sit there and go, no, brother, we got to unite, kumbaya, we need to be one, hug me, I love you, you love me. Bull crap.
So what? So then, what you suggest, to fight over the sandwich?
What I'm saying is this, to confirm his point. Before you can have order, you have to have chaos and confusion first. Anytime there's a great change, there must be chaos and confusion. Everybody's screaming they want change, but nobody wants the chaos and the confusion that comes with it. What I'm saying is, like the laws of Tahuti, as an example, this is just the natural order of things.
Exactly.
What I'm saying is, I use the sandwich metaphor 9 out of 10 times. That's what's going to happen. If that's the last thing there, people are going to kick into survival mode. So the powers that be, as you said, every individual feels they're entitled to having the best. Right? Because this has always been about power. Let's keep it real. It's about whoever controls the natural resources, whoever controls politics and the laws is the individual that has the power.
Well, let me ask you a question. Back to the sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't it make sense?
I'm hungry for a sandwich right
okay.
now. But anyway, go ahead.
But wouldn't it make sense to give it to the children?
No, what I'm saying is, see, we're saying that on the surface. What I'm saying, no, I agree with you. That would be the logical thing to do. But what I'm saying, right? But what I'm saying is this: it's easy to say that now. We're not in that state. You really can't say what I'm saying is we really don't know what would happen until that moment came, but I will tell you, majority of people would kick into survival mode. Right, we say on the surface now, logically, if there's children there, children and women should always be fed first. I agree. But what I'm trying to say is you cannot tell me that everybody would be on that mindset.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That depends on your vibration level.
Right, but see, you're saying that now because everything is peaceful
but
and loving.
Well,
You understand?
that, right? Is
But not
everybody
yourself,
being
but-
idealistic?
But then,
Right.
what about not yourself? If
Too
you
much
have self-knowledge and you live a certain way, it shouldn't matter.
But what I'm saying is I get what you're saying and I don't disagree with it. But it's easy to say that in this
I know,
state.
Okay, I can't speak for everybody. I can't
Of
speak
course
for everybody.
not. You can only
But
speak
I
for
know
you.
myself.
Right.
That came to fit. I'll let the rest of the rats spot with the sandwich. And if I have the power, I'll take it and feed the kids.
Okay.
That's
I
me.
agree with you too.
No.
I agree with
Okay.
you. I would do the same thing.
Okay. Now, okay, maybe you would,
I do the same thing.
but let me ask you a question. Hold up.
Yeah,
But what I'm saying,
My thing is, that sandwich is not gonna last. You're gonna die
Okay.
anyway after the sandwich.
true indeed. But what I'm saying is this. I hear what you're saying in this state right now. But now if you're hungry, stomach growling,
I hear you.
starving, you know, got that hunger, everything kicking in hunger. Circumstances could be different. I'm not saying maybe you would do that. But I
feel like Jesus.
Man, that's a hypothetical argument because you use everybody in this room. Ain't no children in this room, so we talking about us. So it's a hypothetical argument. I'm talking about duality, good and evil, right and wrong.
But you know what I'm doing? You know what I'm the beauty what I just did?
Yeah.
And I just worked some black magic on it. You know the beauty that I just did? The very fact that you're thinking and dialoguing. That's all I wanted to accomplish. And I just accomplished it. Because y'all just for a minute stopped and everybody's that's great. Because that's the solution. We got to start thinking ahead.
Right.
I don't know, did I do the experiment here with the I think I did it. Did I do the experiment with the with them here with the last week we did it, but were they all here the last time with the picking a letter and a number? Did we do all that? Was anybody here for that experiment? Did we do the pick a country thing? Did we do that last? Didn't we do that over there? We didn't do that? You sure? To show you.
I think we did.
Did we do it in there?
Yeah.
Who was here at the last class? Raise your hand. We can't do it if you were. So if you, all right, you guys were. Who wasn't here? Raise your hand. All right. Do you got a piece of paper so they can write? And I'll finish with this so they can't lie and change their answers. I'm gonna do a little experiment on you. But I want you to write it down so you can't, because some people after it pans out, they'll go ahead and say, oh no, it was this and that. But I want you to write it down. And then I want you to show everybody after I ask, we'll close with this. While he's doing that, I'll be here shortly. Again, a lot of stuff we're talking about, tons of books up here. You know me, there's incense oils, books. It's up here, and I do have the, what you call it? The, what's that called? No, what's it called again? Square. I do have square with me, yes. I'm going to finish with this. And if you did it last time, don't do it this time. I just want to see who falls into this category. To show you how easy it is, I'm just trying to tell you. Once you control your subjective realm, see, I'm not worried about saving everybody anymore. I gave that up. I don't care about that no more. It starts with you.
Universal law, self-preservation. Universal law.
But I will educate, and it's up to you what you do with that education. So let him get them papers. We're going to do a little test, and then we're going to close with this. And if you did it last time, just skip it. Don't do it this time, because you're going to probably know how it's going to turn out. But what I do want to do is get you thinking. All right, what I'm going to have you do, we'll start with the beginning process while he's getting the pen and the paper. I want everybody to think of a number, okay, from 1 to 10. Okay? I want everybody to say their number. What's your number?
7.
7. Did you do this last time? Okay. 7. 6. 7. 8. 7. All right, everybody said 8 or 7. Okay, cool. While he's getting the paper, what I want you to do from that number, everybody said 8. Some people said 7. Okay. What I want you to do from that number, all right, we'll take the number 7 for an example. Okay. What I want you to do from that number, if you minus from that number 4, what do you get? 7 minus 4 is what? Okay, you got 3. 7 minus 4 equals 3. I'm going to wait till he gets the paper so we can finish, because now we can't go forward. Everybody got their numbers. Don't forget your numbers. The part that you're not going to say, you're not going to say, you're going to write it down. Just remember your numbers. Just pass them around. Let me know when everybody's got their paper. You did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did it.
Don't do it if you did it last time. Okay. Everybody write your numbers down on your paper.
The one that.
The one that you said. No, just put your number down first. Everybody put your 7, your 8. Let me know when you got it. Okay. Now take your number first, before we do the minus 4, times it by 9. Take that number you picked, times it by 9. Alright. Alright, we'll use... Everybody got it? Let me know when you're there.
Oh, that was your pen? Oh. No, I don't need a pen. I did it already.
When you times your number by 9, okay? Let's use 7. What do you get? We times 7 times 9. What do you get? Okay. Everybody times their numbers? Add your 2. Now take the... Alright, 63. We're going to use the 1. 7 times 9 is 63. When you add your 2 individual numbers together, what single digit do you get?
9.
Everybody gets 9, correct? Regardless of what number you picked. Am I right?
Yeah.
All right.
It wasn't a 9 times table though, isn't it?
Right, but everybody's got the single digit 9, regardless of what number you picked, correct? We can agree on that, right? All right, watch. It gets worse. All right, now what I want you to do is subtract that number by the number 5. What do you get? Everybody's got 4, right? Now this is the part you're going to write down. Don't tell me this part. Now, we all got number 4. And I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this and what this represents. Everybody's got number 4. We can agree on that. Take the number 4. What is the 4th letter in the alphabet? Everybody can say it out loud. We all can agree on that, right? D? All right, cool. Now you're going to write this down. Don't tell me what this is. The 4th letter of the alphabet is D. I want you to write down on that piece of paper the name of a country that begins with the letter D. Write it down, but don't say it out loud. I want you to all write it down so you can't change your answers.
Starts with D.
Starts with the letter D, the name of a country.
Okay.
Write it down on the paper. Let me know when you're all there. Don't say it. I want it written down so you can't change your answers. Let me know when you're there.
All right.
You got it? Everybody there? Just raise your hand so I know you're there. All right, cool. Everybody good? This is not a trick. Everybody good? Can we go to the next one? Are we good? I'm not hearing nobody say anything. Yeah, okay. All right.
I see it in the...
Okay, watch. Now, the country that you selected, look at the last letter, how that country is spelled, the very last letter, how you spelled the country. I want you now to take that letter and think of an animal that begins with that letter. The very last letter of the country you spelled out. Think of whatever the end of that letter is, whatever country it is, the last letter. Write down the name of an animal that begins with that letter. Let me know when you're there. I'll show you what this is about. And let me know when everybody's there. Just say I, raise your hand. If you're thinking too hard, you're going to mess this up. Trust me. When we're there, let me know. We're good?
Yeah.
All right. The name of the animal you just wrote down. Whatever animal you selected, the last letter in the name of that animal, the very last letter, I want you to take that letter and write down the name of a fruit that begins with that letter. And then I'll tell you I'm going to tell most people what they wrote down. There'll be a few of you that'll think hard and you'll bypass it, but most of you won't. And I'm going to show you what we just did here. Let me know when you're there. And you can't lie. Just raise your hand if you thought it was. Everybody there? Mm-hmm. How many people were thinking of a kangaroo in Denmark eating an orange? Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, raise your hand.
Kangaroo, I got Denmark.
Okay, Denmark. That's the same thing. All right. There's your answer. Let me give you an example.
I got okra.
Okay, but I told you there would be a couple of yous. There would be a few of yous that would be maybe one or two. There's what I'm trying to tell you. There's your answer, Yehuda, to how easy it is. There's a systematic way of thinking, and what I basically just did, I created a pattern by doing the 9 first. Go ahead.
That's why when you Google something, you're thinking about it.
All right, now you can see where I'm going with this now. See where I'm going with it now. This, what I just did is what a hypnotist does when he hypnotizes you. Because what I did first was create a systematic way of thinking by using the 9 and the 9 times table. And then once I got you locked there, I can automatically, I know where you're going next. This is the answer to your question.
Mind control.
This is how they utilize mind control, whether you're conscious of it or not. You see, what I'm trying to tell people is, you may think you're susceptible to it from a conscious level. But the only way you're going to find out is when you tap into the inner depths of your subconscious mind.
I didn't realize. See, I guess, you know what I was doing with the Denmark?
I know what you were doing.
No,
yeah.
I was looking at the 7, and then I was looking at how many the letters. 7.
Right, because I said some people would really think hard,
right, I was saying,
and that's okay.
Right.
It's just to go. The only reason why I did that simple exercise is just to show you how easy it is to systematically get you to think. It's not that hard. Once I learned that simple process, if I want to move, let me give you an example. If I want to move, like I say, if I want to buy a house, I can get a house now. I know how to bypass the blockages. If I want to get a car, whatever I need to do, get done. I know I can get it done now because I've now see the veil that's blocking me from obtaining everything I need. And I don't want to sound like Tony Robbins and I'm giving you one of those, what do they call those people? I'm telling you this. Once you're able to bypass that way of, they do the same thing with this whole post-traumatic slavery thing. Now, if I sit there and you're ranting and raving about how you've been done wrong, I got you already, because now I know how to tap into your emotions. Because if I start talking about race issues, I got you. All I got to do is get you into an emotional state where you're out of your right way of thinking. Now I can tell you which way to move, because I know you're already emotionally charged. So I know how to get into your psyche, and now I can use you as my puppet. Very easy.
So when we get emotionally charged, it's like being in the alpha state.
Big time. And I can get you to move any way I want you to move. It's that easy.
So basically now we have to walk and move with a poker face.
There you go.
And you don't let nothing move.
A real warrior.
Side to
That's
side,
right.
and you just keep focusing and going.
Don't believe don't believe all that talk you're saying on the internet. Those dudes ain't gonna do nothing. Because I ain't seen not one of them at any of these protests on the front line. And if you claim you're a warrior down for war to the death, what you waiting for? Your time is now. To all the people that want to go on the front line now, what are you waiting for? See, they're waiting for somebody else to bring the war to them, and they're going to be the first cats to run. They're going to be the first ones to run. The first ones to be put in the cage. All the ones that are out there vocally talking about black power, bang on whitey, be the first ones to go. You mark my words. While the others, see, they're a distraction for us, because while they're doing that, they're creating the curtain for us to devise our real plan. I'm not going to tell y'all what you need to do. You'll know what to do, when you need to do it, and how to do it.
I think all of this confusion is just to bring in the new world order.
That has a lot to do with it. But I can only speak for myself. I'm not affected by any of that. I don't care about any of this stuff.
Sure.
It's irrelevant to me. I don't worry about the new world order. I don't worry about no race war, because I know where I'm at spiritually now. I can bypass that if I have to. I can only work for myself, and I can only teach those close to me. I pass it to my sons, to my wife. That's it. Whoever don't want it, don't want it. I couldn't care if you don't want it, because I'm not on. Years ago, that was my. I'm not trying to save people. I don't care about any of that stuff, because if you don't want to save yourself, how can anybody save you?
I never was.
Now there. Save you from what? Anyway.
Never was.
Anyway, we're gonna wrap it up. I know we went a little bit longer. Again, appreciate everybody coming. Please, class is over. No more questions. I say that with all due respect. I'm a little bit drained. I hang around for a little socialize. The question period is finished. I don't want to answer no more questions or dialogue. It becomes draining a little bit. So I'm going to hang for a little bit, gather my stuff. Anybody wants to purchase anything, feel free. A lot of good books up here. I do have some of Dr. Delbert Blair's CDs and DVDs there, and a lot of stuff we're talking about scattered throughout the books. All right. Again, appreciate everybody coming. Again, if you don't have a card, get a card. It's got the YouTube channel, the radio show. Everything is on the business card. And all I can tell you is leave you with this last minute message. Create your own spiritual path. Stop letting people do it for you. Peace. And peace to YouTube land. Put this up, sorry. Like a damn hit stop.